apart from the fact that my OBS scene hasn't changed over.
Okay, well, we're going live now.
We are live now. I'm live. Hi, guys, on my stream.
Hello. I think
if maybe everybody can confirm our audios and everything on various channels.
Well, yeah, that's why we had mic checks,
However, I will now remind
just
everyone.
Making sure viewers can hear. I see my little signals dancing there.
I will now, however, remind everyone, because I've just had an alert come through. Thank you, Duresh. We will now mute alerts for the duration, out of just politeness to each other.
I remember to do that, yeah.
I didn't!
Already muted.
All done.
I failed miserably.
Not good enough.
And yes, Yamiks and I are probing Uranus.
Yes, that was my idea. I'll take credit for it. Exigeous, you get nothing.
Yeah, I don't think it was me at all, was it?
Go on.
Nice.
Nice.
There we go.
Love it.
Perfect.
Love it. Obsidian, why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, so here with another Creators Round Table. This time, well, this week we've got a heck of a lot to talk about with the release of the beta for Chapter 4 and also the live stream last night from Frontier. So we've got a bit of a schedule this time that we're going to be keeping to, and Exigeous is going to take us through that as we go through the stream. But this week it's Yamiks, we've got Exigeous, DJTruthsayer, Turgeon, and later on in the stream, when we start talking about squadrons, we can also have a guest, Shan from Live Radio, who will be talking about squadrons with us. So, yeah. So, we're going to start off with, I think, our bit of an overview and our thoughts on what's been going on with Chapter 4, our thoughts and feelings on it, a bit of impressions, I guess. I guess I'll start that off. For me, it's been, well, really, really good, actually. The first thing I jumped into was the exploration mechanics. That's obviously one of the big things for me. Exploration's the thing I've always done right in the early days of the game. I kind of phased off of it for the last year or so. I got a little bit bored with just the flying around and honking and not really finding anything new. But the new changes have really changed that, especially with the surface probes. That's made a lot of difference. The other day, the nice thing I think about it is you can sit down for a half-hour session and you can find some unidentified signal sources, exactly what you want. You can go to a planet and find some surface features there, and it feels a lot less like you're wasting your time now. Personally, I really like the new visuals as well. We'll be talking about that a bit more in a minute, and I know not everyone is a fan of the new lighting changes, but more on that. What else has there been? The scenarios. Actually, that's one thing. That's one thing I've had a little bit of a trouble with myself. I did find a megaship scenario, but all the other ones, I don't know if they're there or I've just had bad luck in finding them. But I've jumped in some distress signals and I've just jumped into some convoys and nothing goes on. Although apparently they're meant to be scenarios at the moment. So I guess if there's anything I guess could be changed a little bit, it would be perhaps increasing their chances of encountering some of the scenarios, because aside from the megaship one, I've not really seen any. But yeah, I think we'll talk about a bit more. Me personally, I'll talk a bit more about the exploration mechanics in a bit. There's someone else want to talk, DJ? If we go down in alphabetical order here, if DJ's still there, it's still there.
So I have had super limited time with the beta because I was at TwitchCon when it came out, and I only arrived back the other night. So I haven't had much time with it yet. So most of what I have seen in my opinions have been, when I've been watching other people's streams and that sort of thing, because I have had the chance to do that. Scenarios, that does seem to be a common theme. Getting them to pop doesn't seem to be particularly easy at the moment. Hopefully they can work on that, because scenarios, they're really a building block that I can see Frontier building really awesome things with very easily. The fact that they can put objectives, essentially they can take USSs, give them objectives. The thing that got me about it when we saw it, when we were there, was I asked, with that megaship interaction, can you have two wings in there working on opposite sides? And the answer is yes you can. That's awesome. Stuff like that could be really good fun and really change what Elite's all about, but we need to be able to find them, we need to be able to get them easily, right? The exploration changes I haven't played with yet, so I'm going to withhold too much comment, other than I still think they look really neat. Squadrons we're gonna get onto later.
Yep.
So I'll go with that as my first impression, shall I? That seems about right. So
Yamiks,
next,
did you want to talk about scenarios real quick before we?
No, I'm just gonna rant on everything. So I'll leave it up to you, Exigeous, to
Okay.
pull me
so
in
hold
when
for
you
a
want.
second. Yeah. So hold for a second. Then let's get through and kind of talk about all the give our overviews, and then we'll get to the individual topics. Right. I'm gonna save a lot for what I'll say for later as well. I think overall I'm very happy. Right. I think everything are steps in great directions. It's a great beginning to what the game's needed for a really long time. I think the new exploration stuff, I think there's some things that need to change. I think there's some balance that needs to happen. My biggest complaint right now is simply pay for exploration. But when is credit's not my problem. And other than that, I think I'm jazzed about most every part of it. Right. I think I'll wait and we'll get into the detail of each here. Turgeon, what's your kind of overall? I think we know some of your overall.
Well, the gist of it is I haven't actually done much with the beta at all because the new lighting changes are essentially for me a migraine trigger. So I've had a brief look at it, but it's like they've turned the contrast up, the brightness up, they've oversaturated everything, and it's like watching some strange, delirious cartoon for me. I can't really stay there for very long. So in the little that I did, I didn't really have much fun because I then started looking at the exploration mechanic. And if you look at that in VR, the blue shimmer that they have on that is literally
it's awful.
The visual aura disturbance you have just before you have a migraine.
Yeah,
it's like somebody at FDev decided that they've just broken up with someone that suffers from migraines, and now they want to make everybody with migraines suffer by changing all of the lighting and everything in the game. That's what it looks like to me. But yeah, beyond that, I'm not going to be popular with everybody for saying this. I know this, but for me, the new exploration mechanic is literally the worst possible thing they could have done for my personal exploration style. It is like the antithesis of my exploration style. They've changed an at-a-glance system that I used to decide if something was worth stopping at for filming to something that is cumbersome, clunky, requires more keybinds than you know what to do with, takes 10 times as long. The probing thing, I love the probing thing. That's great because you can come up to a planet, you can probe it, you can find surface locations that you had to use the Mark 1 eyeball to find before, which took us forever.
Yeah.
So that's great. So from my perspective, the ideal system for me would be if they left the ADS exactly as it is on the live build right now, introduced that probing mechanic just exactly as they've got it in the beta, and had this bizarre radio bar thing for everything else. The USSs, the weird things that you find out there, the anomalies, all of that. Just for that, not the planets. That would have been fine. I would have loved that. But because they've taken all of the stars and the planets out and put them in this weird radio scanner thing that makes literally no sense to me and there's no visual component whatsoever, I find it utterly useless to me. And it's just going to be an annoyance that slows everything down for me and gets in the way. So it's essentially killed my exploration game as that FSS.
Interesting.
So you're one of those that call it the FFS scanner rather than the FSS
I do
scanner.
indeed, yes. I would indeed call it the FFS scanner.
For fuck's sakes, man!
Yeah, totally. So beyond that, I can't actually say what's in the beta because I haven't looked at it because it's just burning my eyes out with the new lighting changes.
Turgeon doesn't know what he's talking about. Shut up.
Yeah, exactly.
How dare you, Turgeon, have an opinion that's different to other people's?
Different, exactly. Good
right?
God.
How very don't get me wrong. I'm not saying
how very
you.
dare I, prefacing it with this is my personal opinion.
Yeah,
How dare I even do that? Yeah,
Exactly.
but
I-
as
I
I,
mean,
say,
I-
for me, it literally kills my personal way of explaining. I likened it earlier to like if you're going on a walk through the woods. You're just out for a walk. You're not going out for any reason. You're not looking for anything. You're just having a walk, and you can catch something out the corner of your eye and go, "Oh, that's cool," and go and have a look. And it could be like the example I used earlier was like strawberries. You could find some wild strawberries and go, "Oh, that's cool." Why don't you eat some of them? Carry on. And you'll remember that walk because you didn't go out looking for anything, but on the way you found some wild strawberries and ate them. And you go, "Oh, that was the walk where I found those strawberries." But now with the FFS system, it's like you're walking down a forest path with two 6-foot high wooden fences either side of it. There might be something on the other side of them, but in order to find out, you have to go to the fence, stand up against it, hold your camera above the fence, point it over, take a photograph of what's on the other side, look at the camera, zoom in a bit at the picture, see if there's anything there that might be a splash of red. And if there is, you go, "Is that strawberries?" You have to climb over the fence, go and have a look, then get it and go, "Oh, it is strawberries," then climb back again and carry on. So essentially, if you want to find things with the new system, you have to go out on a deliberate hunting, looking for it thing. You know, they've changed from my perspective, my personal gameplay style. All you people, my personal gameplay style. They've changed it from being a gatherer to being a hunter. Is what it comes down to
Sure,
in the
sure.
hunter-gatherer mindset. And I'm a gatherer. I'm not a hunter. So for me, it's like the exact opposite of the way I work. And I'll never be comfortable with it. I'll never be happy.
Can I
Yeah.
quickly jump in with the
Hey,
opposite point of view?
I finished me rant now.
Just to provide, to sort of show the other side of this. I'm someone who found exploration as it was deeply, deeply boring and unsatisfying, to the point that I referred to the system map as the system trap, because it slows you down, and that's all I saw it doing. Yeah, I didn't. If I was going somewhere, I knew where I was going. I was going to look at something pretty, as a general rule. I would get there as quickly as possible, and I'd just jonk on the way there and jonk on the way back. I had no interest in exploring anything. Yeah, and again, this is just, it didn't engage me. My entire point of that was to travel to a place, see something nice, and then travel back. This new system has actually made me go, I'm now the gameplay loop has become engaging enough and interesting enough. Certainly from looking at it. Again, I haven't messed around with it yet, so I will. This will be followed up with an actual proper opinion once I played with it properly. But certainly looking at it, it makes me look at it and go, this is actually a system I'm interested in doing. It's something that I find fun. That I think I'll enjoy taking part in, whereas I didn't before. So for me, it's the exact opposite. It's actually made me want to explore. I think that's both of those opinions are going to come up again and again. To some people, this isn't what they wanted. To others, this opens up a whole new avenue of gameplay. I think one thing that definitely has to be said of it, and the devs have been saying about this, how happy they are that people are now finding things that have been in the game for 2 years.
There is plenty that can be said about that. DJ.
Oh no! The obvious argument there is you just didn't give us the tools to find them. Yeah, plain and simple. We now have the tools, so naturally we're going to find stuff. But that's a good thing.
Tools and other things, I'd say.
That's a good thing, right? At the end of the day, that's now sorted. Yeah, and moving forward, we're now going to be able to find this stuff much, much easier. And that excites me. That does make me sort of like, yeah, cool. And I apologise. I went on a bit longer than I meant to there.
That's okay. So yeah, Yamiks, let's go to Yamiks's thoughts, and then if we want to, I thought quickly we'll let Turgeon kind of talk about the lighting changes a little bit, because that's kind of our first topic up. But Yamiks, do you have an overall opinion you want to give in a paragraph, or do you want to just wait for a
opinion of
rant?
the whole thing? Oh my, it's kind of hard to put it in just a couple of sentences, but I'll try. Let's see. So, oh my god, bad! Ooh, interesting. Bad. Something a bit more interesting. And oh my Jesus fucking Christ, kill it with fire! So that's about basically how I would put the whole beta. So
all right, that sounds like what probably most of us expected. Turgeon, do you want to do you want to talk a little about the lighting changes, and then we'll get to the meat of exploration?
Yeah, I mean, the thing about the lighting is we've got one gamma slider in the options. If you want to actually change the lighting, it's the options that they give you, or a gamma slider, or the bloom, or the blur. That's it.
Right.
There's no actual control over the visuals that you're seeing. Now, it looks to me like they've massively ramped up the contrast and the brightness and the colors. So, give us some sliders so that we can put it back the way it is now.
Do you think people are going to be
Basically.
using things like reshade to make it look the old way?
I don't know. But to me, all it feels like is it's now too bright and too garish, and it's much the same as a few iterations ago, if you remember, that they tinkered with the lighting and made everything too bright, and then had to dial it back again. If you remember, how long ago was that? All I remember of that time is that was when they hadn't retextured my Asp's cockpit. They changed the textures in the ship cockpits, and they'd left the people flying Asps with basically a brushed aluminium cockpit. That's what we had. So you couldn't fly anywhere without getting your eyes burned out, and it took them about 2 months or something to put the old beaten up iron texture back into the Asps, and that is what it's like flying around for me now. It's like the Asp has got its aluminium cockpit back again. If you turn your asp towards a bright star, you cannot see the HUD. The HUD elements are literally invisible because they're just burned out by the glare of the star.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
how is that a good thing? Sure, it makes some of these surface pictures look cool and stuff, but if your eyes are watering so much from the star by the time you get there, what's the point?
The
So for
solution
me,
to sorry.
not good for me. That's
Well,
fine, DJ. I've ranted enough. Go on.
no. The solution to that would surely be that's because in law the cockpit glass darkens to stop us from getting blinded. Yeah, surely that should be a neat thing where when you first look at a star it is like that, and then your cockpit glass darkens a bit and your HUD comes back into view. Right, that would be awesome. But the fact that, as you say, you literally can't see the HUD, that's something that. But again, beta. This is the sort of
Well,
shit that we need to make sure
what?
Frontier know about and make sure
Yeah.
that they are aware that something needs to be done. And if they want to keep the lighting engine as it is, and I can understand why they would, something like that at least makes sure that, bluntly put, gameplay elements aren't being hidden by the lighting engine, would be a good thing, right?
Yeah, some sliders. Just give us some sliders so we can dial it all back down. That'd be fine.
Yeah,
Then
Mix,
people
what
can
was
have it as
your
bright as they want.
Mix, you wanted to jump in about the lighting and visual stuff before we move on?
Right. Well, now how much time do we got?
Well, let's put it this way, we're right on schedule, so you're fine.
All right, so basically to quickly go over the lighting. So obviously more artistic people or people that at least work with the fucking Photoshop a lot will probably know that essentially what is being changed is generally, of course speaking, contrast, brightness, gamma, saturation, and well, a few little other details, I guess. But realistically, those are the basic tools that are being used and utilized to create the Ice Train 2000. Or what we know as of today, Elite Dangerous. The problem with the whole visual aspect of the game is right now that most things are very bloomy. While yes, sure, we don't get the Michael Bay levels of. Oh wait, no, that's explosion. Lens flares. Yeah, there we go. Lens
J.J.
flares. We don't
Abrams.
get that bullshit, right?
Yeah,
So
J.J.
that's a
Abrams.
good thing in a way. But on the other hand, we also get on top of it bloom, massive amounts of fucking bloom. That first of all, of course, interferes with many things. Then we have on top of that, basically a color or over saturated color that basically goes over on top of our own HUD, and even right now on my screen or other Fox streams, you can see pretty much how the brightness of or rather the color of the star or surrounding things or whatever else there is impacts the normal colors or just tones them in a slightly different way. So now my screen is actually quite a bit more blue-ish. even though the star is quite a bit different than that. I'm in Seoul, after all. I did notice, the first thing actually that I noticed immediately upon jumping in the game, that I was super far away from the star, and yet my cockpit, and as a matter of fact, any other cockpit, was slightly toned on the blue side. Well, I understand that we all like the blue color. As a matter of fact, I do like it a lot, but there is something to be said about accents, putting things in right places without oversaturating things. And unfortunately, that's what the fucking artist or visual team or the engine team or who the fuck else made the choice or, well, decision to put everything, first of all, slightly toned on the blue side. And of course, afterwards, just blooming everything so your eyes burn out. And I don't like that. I also don't like the fact that my HUD tends to get purple as soon as I get close to a star or something like that. And, the color of the star impacts the color of my HUD, making it, well, either unreadable or just weird. And if you're like DJ and you have problems with eyes in the color scheme way, you might even not see things. I don't know. Maybe DJ has a different opinion there.
I was about to say, so this is where I'm going to jump in and go, I love the new lighting engine. I can see shit. I can see so much more with this new lighting engine than I could before. But that's unsurprising. Colours are far more vibrant, and there's less things that are close shades to each other, and that's easier for me. So yeah, I do adore it. I have to say, my favourite thing that's happened because of the new lighting engine is the dark side of planets. The fact that they've literally had to give us a night vision mode because the dark side of planets are now that dark.
Totally agree.
I was fucking sick. Yeah. That's just awesome.
Yeah, I was actually flying around in a canyon on aerial a second ago showing everybody the night vision, and I think I don't know that I'd say it's my favorite feature, but it's one I will use. It might be the feature I use the most often, right? So, because I think it's fantastic. Right?
Also, can I please drag us off subject for half a second as the subject of my color blindness?
I wasn't finished ranting.
Well, I promised to give back to you, but as the subject of my color blindness came up.
Go.
After the last time I was on the Creators Roundtable, we've been discussing my colour blindness. A member of the audience reached out to me and offered to buy me a set of the Enchroma glasses.
Oh, and?
They work. I got them in San Jose. I saw purple for the first time in San Jose.
Wow, dude. I find this kind of shit fascinating. I love those videos.
How good is that?
So I'm now saving up for the low light version so that I can use it at my PC.
Oh, that's great, dude.
But they work. I saw colours that I've never seen before. So I apologise for dragging us off subject for a second.
No, but you see people cry in those videos. I mean, was it that emotional of an experience?
It wasn't. I'm not going to lie. It wasn't quite that. Yeah. In all honesty, what happened was I was sitting quietly with a couple of friends. I put them on, and the box of the box that they come in has a purple ring around the edge of the box. And I looked down and literally went, holy shit, is that purple?
Yeah.
That was my literal reaction.
Oh, that's awesome.
Awesome. And then I looked at my friend Steez, who was wearing a Twitch t-shirt in the Twitch purple, which is quite a light purple, And before I put the glasses on, he was wearing a blue t-shirt.
Oh, that's great.
Blue also looks different than I thought it would.
Oh, I'm sure many things do.
It's really, really weird. But anyway, Yamiks, I apologise because it came up. I wanted to raise it to just say thank you, essentially.
I'm to be blamed on this one, though. So
no.
So quickly dragging back to the topic.
Yes, go Yamiks.
Right. So, as DJ actually mentioned, yes, the whole dark side and the light side of the planets are actually better now. But as a videographer, one of those assholes who goes around filming things and looks at the pictures in a bit more detailed way and tries to analyze what would be good and what would be bad, I tend to look at colors and choose scenes, well, not always successfully, obviously, but as much as I can to the prettiest I can, right? For my videos. But now when I go to a planet and I find shadows, they are really dark, which is good, which is really nice. Though on the opposite side, if I look at the bright parts of the planet, they are overly bright. Unfortunately, the contrast has been shifted a bit too much. So now the whole brightness is just, well, literally just too much. And it actually just dissolves the detail that would be there on either the texture or the object. That might be just one case, but regardless, on the old system, well, that wouldn't happen. Of course, the old system wouldn't really give you that dark of a shadow, but yeah, I prefer more detail rather than deep, dark shadows or deep depths of whatnot else. Not being an fartist, yeah, I still prefer the old one rather than this one. I prefer to put on, visual effects afterwards, after filming, rather than having those applied without really having the choice. So, yeah.
I agree.
But-
it would be nice, as has been said, if we had some sliders to adjust it or change it more.
Do you know
But generally
how
speaking, yeah.
the way that I would solve this? Give us a slider in cockpit that controls the darkness of our cockpit glass.
That won't fix all the things because, again, as I do film with the camera, constantly
Right.
there are
Yeah,
differences
that's
and
true.
so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. So my basically summary of the whole lighting engine is they went too far on the saturation part and they went too far on the bloom side. Now the game really feels that they are trying to make it more colorful and friendly and vibrant, so it would, maybe compete with the fucking No Man's Sky. It does
no.
feel like it. It does feel like
Really?
it. That's literally what it does. That oversaturation does feel, or rather point to that particular thing.
I no. I don't quite buy into that. I see what you're saying. I do
That's-
think
Again, that's just how I see it.
Yeah.
Of course. So there you go. That's my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, okay. Well, unless somebody's got something more to throw in on visuals, because it is a change, but to me, it's fairly minor. I dig it, but I also see the complaints. Why don't we move on to let Obsidian, who's probably I don't know that I want to put anybody else out here, but our resident explorer, obviously Turgeon is too, but Obsidian, why don't
explore
you...
too, for fuck's
Yeah,
sake.
yeah. Well, yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, I shouldn't have said it that way. Obsidian, why don't you tell us about?
Sure, yeah.
Kick us off with starting about just kind of exploration, the FSS, just
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
the new
yeah.
process. Yeah.
Okay, before we go into that, very briefly talk about visuals just for a few
Yeah,
minutes,
please.
just a slightly different
Sure.
take on it. Unlike Yamiks and Turgeon, I personally think the new visuals are absolutely fantastic.
I'm kind of with you, to be honest with you. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's a side of it if you hang around just inside the bubble and you don't go too much beyond space stations and stuff like that. It's kind of a subtle change. It's not a massive change. Perhaps nearer stars it's a bit brighter, but yesterday I headed out to Barnard's Loop. That's the big bright red horseshoe type nebula you can see from near the bubble, for those of you that have not been out that way. And I just thought the whole thing just looked so much better, much more vibrant. I always thought nebulas had quite a washed out appearance to them, and it's one of the reasons I used to use EDFX, one of the graphics mods. But I don't think I'll be using that anymore because nowadays things just look so much better. The planets are a lot more vibrant, and one thing I noticed is that as you go to different types of planets with different types of stars, they're obviously lit up differently depending on the visible light spectrum that's coming from that star. So if you're near a blue star, all the planets are cast in blue. We used to have that a little bit with some of the blue stars, but it's now much more apparent. Red stars give off a sort of a red hue over planets, and if you go to a bit of a yellow star, a bit like our own sun, then planets are lit up more or less like what we're used to with daylight. Actually went over a planet there, and the colours on the planet looked very much like what you'd expect to see those colours to look like outside, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
one of the things, the way that's been changed is the ambient lighting. That's you sort of get. There was some the way one of the art guys talked about it a few years ago on the forums was they basically cudgelled the light source in on the dark side of planets so that it was lit up by ambient light that wasn't true to life, and that's why as you descended down to the planets they kind of brightened up a bit, and that's something that's gone away now, which is why we get proper true dark side of planets. So for me, no, I literally can't find a flaw with the visuals. Very, very impressed with them. Look just better all round, I think. But
yeah, again, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, just.
But I could also see. Yeah, I mean, I definitely
that's
see
not
the
to
complaints.
disagree with everyone else. Everyone's got their own opinion, as Turgeon
of course
said early on. It doesn't invalidate his opinion. It's what it is for him. I think
imagine people have personal
having
opinions,
different
right?
opinions.
It's
yeah,
like
well,
your opinion, man.
yeah. How
So,
can you have an
as-
opinion?
As an example of an opinion that is something that I had never considered and never bothered me, someone in chat has just said, no one's mentioning the really annoying lines in Super Cruise, the speed lines that we get in Super Cruise, and that they want
The
the
space
ability
dust,
to be able
basically.
to.
That's
Oh,
what it's
yeah.
called.
Yeah, they want to be able to disable that.
Me
But the
too.
honest truth is, they're there to give you a sense of what direction you're traveling
Yeah.
in, right?
That's
I just
essentially-
wish when we turned our HUDs off, it would turn off the cockpit lighting, like on the pillars and stuff, and actually turn everything off.
Okay.
I like specifically, I like times when I'm in VR, turn off the whole HUD. I turn my HUD off probably 40% of the time I'm playing. Turn it off and just look around, and those bright lights. I mean, as silly as that says, but when it's super dark, right, those bright lights really can ruin things. At least to my eyes, right? That would be something I would love to see and have always wanted. So anyway, with that, should we move on to exploration, Sidian?
Yeah.
Do you have anything else?
Um,
Anybody else have anything to throw out here?
Got plenty, but
Well, we'll have the individual topics as we get to it.
I'm creating a sunset by going down from high altitude onto a planet at the moment, and it looks fucking spectacular.
That looks.
I will say.
That looks really a lot better than it used to. And then one other point, very, very quickly, and Yamiks may have noticed this, is that the lighting and the colours when you're inside your ship are very different to when you go outside into the external camera. Have you noticed that?
it's a little bit here and there.
Oh,
Yeah.
there's this in some places. It's a huge amount of difference. There's a big difference.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's worth experimenting with. As you jump in and out the ship, it can be a lot of difference. But yeah, exploration. I'm actually going over the surface of a planet right now, and I've been doing a bit of probing. But that's something I think Yamiks is going to talk about in a bit.
Of course, Yamiks is going to talk about probing.
But the new,
my baby, you know it.
the new FSS scanner, it's one of the changes. I think it's divided opinion a bit. I think from what I'm seeing, a lot of people are very, very happy with it, and there's also a group of people who are not too pleased about it. I think one of the biggest mistakes Frontier made with the release of the beta is giving no one any indication on what to do with the new bindings, and that's really thrown absolutely everyone. I mean, I jumped straight in. I've got a Warthog, so I'm used to flying with HOTAS, and I've got everything mapped to how I want it. But when I jumped into the binding controls, I tried to open the FSS. Obviously, got no idea how to open that to start with, so I had to jump into the bindings to try and figure that out. There's a new option down at the bottom, and absolutely nothing for either of the two new scanners is bound. And not knowing how.
Yeah, not even a default, and that's
nothing.
I completely agree.
Absolutely
That's
nothing.
pathetic.
Yeah, so
Yeah, it's
having no
really
context
bad.
of how that system works, how do you know even what keys to apply?
Yes.
How
would you know what means what? And yes.
Yeah, exactly. So it kind
If
of
you
left.
use the default bindings, though, it is
There
that
are
should
default
be
bindings.
noted.
Exactly. That's
Yeah,
just
there
what I
are.
was
There are
about to get
defaults
to.
for the
You're
Warthog.
right,
There are
you're right.
defaults.
That's
I
just
get
about
what
what I was
you're
going to get
saying.
to. So rather than spend, I wanted to get a few videos done. I wanted to see what the new system was like. So rather than spend time messing around with binding everything to the HOTAS, I just plugged in my Xbox gaming pad and switched over to the default context setup, or the default context controller. I can't remember exactly how it's worded, but basically everything's got the default bindings then, including the new Discovery scanner. And jumped straight away into the Discovery scanner, and I had absolutely no problems with it at all. I found it worked very, very well. For one of the first times Frontier have given a direct in-game tutorial, which I was pretty impressed
Nice,
with.
isn't it?
Yeah, actually let people know how to use things.
I'd say that engineering has about the same.
No, this is better than what engineering's got. You're right. Engineering does have some, but I gotta say this is. I mean, it's still, like part of me I was like, hey,
being
look,
just bigger. Yeah, it has more things in it, but realistically speaking, the rolling part. I mean, at least it explains that.
I guess you're right, but still, I give credit. I would say I give credit where credit's due. I do think it's nice they gave us that at least, right?
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
it was basic enough that they're not going to put my channel out of business, right? But at the same time, it was still nice to have at least something, right?
Yeah, when people jump into the game, they know what they're
Totally
doing now,
agree.
rather than just not having a clue. So yeah, I think
Completely
it's
agree.
with the controller. I think it kind of, and some people are pointing out in chat right now, it seems the new scanner was designed with a game controller in mind, a gamepad. Whether it's primarily designed for the console in mind or what, it seems that's kind of how they approached it. I think Exigeous, you were kind of talking a little bit earlier before the stream started about how you would like the bindings for the little tuning in part on your throttle.
Yes. Yeah, like, so for me, like, I think that's, to me, the biggest thing I don't like about the FSS is the tuning, right? I can't find a good place to put it. I've tried either on my stick. If I had a twist axis, I would try it on the twist probably. I'm using it on my pedals right now. Actually, is the best that I found personally gives me the finest detail control. But I don't know if everybody's this way, but I find that I go past what I want a lot, and I'm having to go back and forth quite a bit. And if it was on a fixed axis like a throttle or even a separate knob, right? But specifically something like a throttle, where if I wanted to go to the 75% point on that band, bam, I put my throttle there, and then I just little tiny change with my throttle and let my hand off the throttle. It stops right where I want it to. So I think there would be a lot more precise control if it was able to be bound on a relative axis like a throttle, right, versus a positional axis like your pedals or stick or
that's
whatever.
exactly how it works on gamepad. You just move the bar,
Okay,
and then
it does.
you stop the stick and it stays where you leave it.
Well, no. But what I'm saying is, like on gamepad, and that's how it works with my pedals. You push the stick forward and it moves until you release the stick. What I think would be better with the throttle is if I leave the throttle at 75%, it stays at 75%. So the throttle position matches the position on screen of the item, right? It just feels to me that would be a lot more natural. You could get in the habit of, you jump in and you know that Earth-like is at 55% throttle. You could even set up custom binds that way, right? That would set it to just the right location, right? So it just, to me, that would feel like a much more, I mean, look, we're tuning a dial. And if you think about it like in an old car that had an old stereo where you turned and the little band meter went back and forth, right? That's what we need. And you didn't tune that by saying up a little bit and stop, and up a little bit and stop, and down a little bit. You tuned it by turn and you stopped right when you got on it. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of the problem of what a lot of people are having. I mean, obviously can't speak for everyone, but I think that's where some of the issues that people are having is coming from with the new Discovery scanner. They're kind of not getting to experience the scanner itself because they got so many issues with the control setups, and I think that's got in the way in a lot of ways. But,
I agree.
Yeah, but
There's actually a funny, interesting thing about the Discovery scanner now.
Yeah.
You don't need to have it to activate it. Literally, just don't put anything on your ship and then press the button to open the FSS or the for fuck's sake scanner thing. It still works. That's so fucking stupid.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Pretty interesting.
Moving on.
So
Yeah, but no, I
Yeah,
really like the whole system. I mean, it's got to the point now where I've always thought Elite isn't the sort of game where you can just jump on and unless you've got something very specific in mind, you can't kind of just jump on and spend half an hour on it and feel like you've achieved a load of stuff and jump off again.
Right.
And unless you've got something very specific in mind that you actually want to go out and do, but even that can get in your way. But the other night I jumped on and thought, I'd just sit down for an hour and see what I can do. And within that time, I'd found a whole bunch of different unidentified signal sources that I wanted to have a look at. I found a megaship scenario, and I flew over to a planet and found a few different geological locations down on the surface of the planet, and all of that within the space of an hour. And it's just something that wouldn't have been possible before. So for me, it really totally changes the game, makes it much better game. It just
Yeah,
improves the whole flow of everything, right down to
Yamiks, you had
whether you're looking for something specific or whether you just want to, just sit down and explore. I'm flying around us. That's another point. Flying around a system. Some people say it kind of takes a bit longer, but nowadays it seems there's going to be more reason to stay in a system to map it out, just so you can see what sort of features there are down on a surface of a planet. If that makes sense, especially when some of the other anomalies are switched on. I don't think they're everywhere at the moment. Some people have found those clouds. I haven't seen one yet myself. They're about 12,000 light years away, I think, from the bubble.
I think the closest is 12.
Yeah, there's meant to be one in Shinwata Desra, according to the codex.
It's a bug.
Been able to
it's a
find
bug.
It. Oh, yeah.
No, it's a bug. I saw it on the Reddit. They've acknowledged it's a bug.
Oh, right. Okay, then.
So,
that's
looking for
something
the one
that's
in
not
Shinwata
there.
does not exist.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's kind of why I don't want to fly 12,000 light years as well, to find it's not there.
Well, I know that those have been seen with human eyes. At least a couple of them have.
But then it's worry if they're going to get switched off if you're going to fly all that distance.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, but overall, it's just great because you can spend time in a system and not have to keep jumping from system to system. You can jump into one system and look for all the things that are in there. And when you leave that system, you've found everything that you actually wanted to find in that system.
Yeah. Yamiks, do you want to jump in on scanning, on mapping?
Right.
You said something about key mapping with the FSS.
Oh, the key mapping, right? So it tells volumes of Frontier's ability to do, or rather developer, not the whole company's ability, to introduce new things, game or core gameplay things, of course. I mean, I understand not putting in key mapping on fucking cameras, which is fine, but not putting key mapping on literally one of the fucking main gameplay tools. Yeah, sorry, but no, I don't care if it's fucking bait or not. This is just pathetic. And the funny thing is, I praised the game for actually having really good, at least keyboard and mouse setup, and yet I'm struggling to still say that.
Yeah, it's definitely an oversight that there wasn't some sort of beta binding, or temp bindings, even if you were using, there was a better way to handle that, in my opinion, as well, right?
And that's just one of the issues, of course, but well, whatever. Yeah. Moving on.
Yeah. Well, if we want to move on from there, Yamiks, why don't we talk about, and obviously we can keep revisiting topics and stuff, but Yamiks, why don't we bring up, since you're out there probing Uranus right now anyway, why don't you talk about probes?
I'm just sitting in front of Uranus, so yeah, I'm just anusing around. Right, so probing. Basically, this is if you started watching earlier on or what else, at least on my end, I was probing the anus, and basically just sending out infinite amount of probes that are just recharged with certain reload times or recharge times or whatever. You'll get what I'm saying eventually. Now, once you probe the planets, of course, if you do it with certain amount of probes, you get extra money for mapping it, but realistically you just shoot probes and scan, or rather map a planet, and and it will showcase what sort of signal sources can be found on it, be those biological or Targoid or some other kind, basically creating a much needed shortcut of finding things within the game. And again, this sort of a thing wouldn't be much of a problem if the game didn't have that many things to find, or developers saying there are so many things but no one finds them. Why? Well, ask yourself that question, not us. Why players should, again, brute forcing, aka going on the planet and searching it by hand, by flying on it literally for hours and hours, trying to hope to run into something, is like the stupidest and worst way, or rather worst way of actually finding anything interesting. Now you just shoot a couple of probes and voila, you can find or rather even just go to unique places, and well, also go to things that usually didn't really have those planet waypoints or POIs or well signal source points or well waypoints or bookmarks or whatnot else. Oh wait, no, we need bookmarks as on the planets. That's the next thing that actually comes to mind. But yeah, probing basically allows you to actually aim at something and not look at the fucking coordinates. So yeah, you can still find some interesting looks, scenes, and whatnot else within the game if you really want to. But realistically speaking, probing is fucking awesome. I can't praise enough of how awesome it is. But it should have been in the game way earlier. I mean, many things should have, but this is like one of the things that definitely should have been. If you put in, you know, those unique places like Dargoid crash sites or Inra bases and whatnot else, or Raxler, or what the fuck else not, right? Then give some clues and don't fucking block off players when they find out the solution to your fucking mystery or puzzle, like the Col 70 sector, right? Or whatever else sectors. So yeah, either put in fucking clues or you know give us tools, and now we got tools, which is nice. Finally, the fucking game will have some lore moving on. Anyways, that's the little rant there. Probing's good, good job those who made it, but yeah, can't but wonder if it shouldn't have had introduced, or rather, shouldn't have been introduced sooner. There we go.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else want to chime in on probes? DJ, Turgeon. I know DJ, you haven't played a whole lot yet. Turgeon, you've been a little quiet about that.
Well, no, I haven't played, but as I say, I think that is the one feature of the new exploration stuff that I really do love, because as a filmmaker, to put the Yamiks hat on, as a filmmaker, finding things by eye on a planet it was a pain in the arse. It really was, because if you're looking for something like fumaroles, vents, anything like that you know should be on, you can't find it, and you spend hours looking for a decent filming location. Waste of time. Now it shows you all these things at a glance. If you just bung some pro, why you need to do the thing 100% before it'll show you, I don't know. I mean, 50% should show you things. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I'll let them off. I'll let them off, because there's a reason for mapping the whole thing. That's fine. I can see.
Yeah, I'm with you.
It means that you can see all of these great things, and you can whip down there and you can film at them, which is great. I like that. So that aspect of it, I would definitely keep. That's as it is. That's fine. It's just the other bits.
Yeah, I'll echo everybody else's sentiments too. I really enjoy it. I kind of also agree with you saying about like, well, if the part I've mapped has something in it, why doesn't it tell me? But I get because game, right? There's been a few people in my chat talking about, should the probes have been infinite or not? And I definitely I get the argument of not infinite from a from a realism type perspective. I'm very, very glad we did get infinite though, from a I want to enjoy playing the game perspective.
Somebody perspective definitely it's a good thing, and if you disagree, then please give me a good reason from gameplay perspective for it not to be.
I'm actually right now probing Mitterrand Hollow, which you're able to do, but if you guys think of how fast that thing is, it's pretty funny that it's just rocketing away from me.
I'm at the same place, funnily enough.
Okay.
I just lost the planet.
Okay, I'm sitting in front of it. It's orbiting in front of me.
I hilariously, I think I'm now, as long as I don't move, I should now end up getting hit by it when it comes back round.
Yeah, it's the interesting thing too is once you fired your probe at it, it stays in its gravity well and follows it on its trajectory around the planet. It's pretty cool looking.
That's awesome.
But yeah, no, I for my favorite thing with probing is just the fact now that, and what we're alluding to is, you scan a planet. Hey, there's something down here, and here's where it is, right? No more just flying around bullshit, right? Hoping to find something, right? That kind of stuff. So I think it's great, right? Yeah. I'll segue into the next one on our list is talking about the new USS mechanics. I know that I probably do the most grind for materials of any of us. And so I do high grade USSs very often. I've complained about them very often. I think they're still a fucked up mechanic, but at the same time, the new FSS mechanics in that being able to jump in, scan for all of them. I found a couple of good systems that were very repeatedly over multiple game sessions, multiple times in that session, jumping out of the session and coming back, where I would get 7 to 9 high grades under 10,000 light seconds. A lot of times I get 5 or more under 2,000 light seconds, all with completely ample time expiration timers. I was able to, I didn't actually pick everything up because I reset my account, so I was full of everything, but counting in the time it would have taken me to gather everything, I was able to get over 100 grade 5 materials in less than 30 minutes. And that, I think, the implications for those of us that do a lot of engineering, and for everybody, right? Because it's been my contention, the problem with engineering isn't the roles, it isn't the randomness, it isn't all these things. It's that it's so damn hard to gather the materials to do it that it's not worth it. And if grade 5s are now going to be that fast to find compared to what we have now, I think it is absolutely fantastic. If anybody from Frontier is listening right now, please leave the spawn rates exactly how they are right now, because it's fucking fantastic. I could not be more pleased about it. So, and since, Yamiks, I was gonna say, since nobody else probably wants to ramble about USSs like I do, but Yamiks does. What you got, Yamiks?
Right. So to do a counterpoint and be the wet towel
No, go ahead.
else,
Sure.
Let's remember, folks.
You be a wet towel.
Just, yeah. Let's just remember the fact that unidentified signal sources, those things that show up in the supercruise and so on and so forth, that also give you the scenario moments as well as material sort of collection places, whatnot else. Those things literally are random encounters, and they are basically the top level requirement for sort of one of the main
top level
gameplays,
combat.
Or rather,
yes.
They are basically the main gameplay for top level, gameplay, sort of.
Yeah.
Or portion of it at least, and that is super fucking sad. Let's be honest. The fact that random encounters, the things that in Skyrim you get while walking on the fucking, the road or something like that, is considered as a gameplay that is top level of one of the more important modules of the fucking game. That's bad. That's really fucking bad.
Yeah.
I'm not going
to defend the mechanic, but yeah.
Yeah. What they did with the whole new changes, okay, they made it a little bit better, sure, but it's still bad. So let's not forget that. Moving on.
Yeah. Obsidian, do you want to take us to what I was actually looking forward to the most to hear from you on anyway, is kind of the Ori map. I know you've wanted that forever.
Yeah, I've wanted the Ori map ever since before the game was even released. There was some early concept art on that. What we've got is very, very different to that early concept art, which is fine, because really what was in that concept art probably wouldn't be that workable, to be honest, in kind of a real world scenario, because it wasn't really to scale, whereas the current Ori map is. But yes, it's really great because you can now get a good feel for what all the systems actually look like. And I've spent a good while having a look around at the Sol system. I don't know if you've had a look at that yourselves, any of you? Have you? It's absolutely crazy there, because you get to see some of the scales of distances that are going on there. If you look at, you have a look at, see where Pluto is, and then have a look at how far out Sedna and Persephone are. They're absolutely way out there, and they've got these crazy orbiters which take them immense times to get back round to the sun, so that they're within range of our own planets. So from a point of view of being something of interest, it's a great addition to the game. It's really nice to be able to look at all these systems, and on top of that, it really helps you get a feel for where a certain planet might be in relation to something else that you might be trying to find. So a lot less guessing games. You get some physical visual stuff, visual representations of what's actually out there. The only downside I'd say at the moment is in terms of gameplay, it doesn't really seem to serve any purpose. Kind of reminds me of the very early days of the system map back when the game was still in.
differ a little there.
Okay,
Okay.
Hear that in a minute. I'd like to hear that in a minute.
Okay, so
Yeah,
basically, let's say I chose delivery missions and something like that, right? Well, any sort of a mission, right? And I want to do it the fastest way I can, right? So I would open Orrery in one system if those missions were to bring me, right? And choose a route going from one object to another rather than just going in my target menu or what else and choosing the next closest one, right? This would allow me to just plot a route that would sort of allow me to go a bit more straight lined or at least the way I want. Orrery map actually does help you visualize the way that the stars move in a way, and that might be useful for some some explorers, helping them get that perfect shot, considering that you know when the celestial object will be in a specific position, or when the celestial object will be in the closest proximity to another one, and so on and so forth. Okay, that's a good part of it, but realistically speaking, aside from that, I really don't see any other use for it. Anyways, carry on.
I just find it.
Go on.
No, go ahead.
Go on.
Well, I was just going to say, I find it just incredibly basic, like way too much so to even be remotely interesting to me, right? Like it's just, I think I'd say other than just, again, I think just visually it's really dull. I think my biggest complaint probably is the scale of it. And I get exactly when you said that, Ant, about Soul, I actually went and pulled up Soul's Ori map just because of what you pointed out. And you're very right. That is very cool to see Sedna and Persephone, how far out they are, right? But I think the problem is if you look at I wish there was a logarithmic version of it, because you look at kind of the sample art that Frontier released many years ago, right, of it, where the Orrery all fit on essentially one screen because it rescaled everything, so that the ultimate goal, I think, for me would be, I think, and this is maybe what Yamiks was even saying or getting at, is knowing where things are in relation to stuff, right? And if everything was condensed onto one screen in some way, so that I could actually get that relationship in a meaningful way, I think that would be great. I think the way it is now, I'm kind of more with you, Ant, that I don't see it being very useful, overly useful from a gameplay perspective, right? I think it's just kind of cool, and it's so damn simple. It's like, God, this seems like Alpha 1 kind of stuff to me.
I kind of think it is a case
this
of that.
This is even beyond that.
No, if you go and... I can't remember when you guys actually started playing, but very early.
I was
on.
early 16. Yeah, so you've got a lot more time.
Talking back in 2014 when things were first in there, and the system map was right in there from pretty much day one of beta, I believe. It wouldn't have been in alpha, but it would have been in there from beta. But the system map then was very, very basic. I mean, it's still pretty basic now, but right back then you couldn't even select the planets or the stellar bodies from the system map.
Oh, interesting. Okay, it was just visual.
Yeah, you couldn't zoom in onto the planetary surfaces and get the little planet's surface map you can get now. That wasn't there either. It was just basically a static image of what was in that system, and you could get a bit of information on each planet by selecting them, but you couldn't target them, as in giving you bodies to fly towards, and you couldn't zoom into them. And I suspect that's probably a case of what will happen with the Orrery map, that they'll iterate upon it over future updates. Be very, very surprised if they'd go to all the effort to include an Orrery map if they're not going to do something more with it than how it currently stands right now.
The CQC comes to my mind.
Yeah, but CQC was kind of an extra outside the game thing, wasn't it, really?
And a few other features as well.
No, totally right. Totally right. You can't argue with that.
Yeah, at all.
No, it's or whatever, but
it's I've said this a lot too. Frontier's really good at checking boxes. Orrery map, check. So they've got it now. It's done, and it's like multi-crew, check. SRV, check. Well, we never go back and get what it really should have been in the first place. We're finally getting that. You know, Yamiks made the comment about probes. We should have had these a long time ago. And while I don't necessarily disagree, you know,
At least it wasn't promised.
It's nice that,
but
well,
yeah.
at least, exactly. But at least we're finally getting to that. So they're finally starting to get back around and kind of update the real features and stuff. But we're still left with a lot of stuff. Again, I think the area map's a perfect example that it's just barely usable or barely, you know, interesting or a feature. Right?
No, yeah. Personally, I'm really pleased it's in though. I love going around and exploring the systems and get an idea of all the layout of everything and seeing the scale of it. So, for me personally, it's a big plus.
Yeah, and I'd rather have it than not have it.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So
That's a big plus to the game, especially from an explorer's point of view.
Yeah.
I was just kind of addressing the point that some people are probably going to have, that it doesn't necessarily add stuff to gameplay. Yeah, I just feel whilst it might not necessarily add stuff to gameplay, I think it adds a lot to the game world.
Yeah, and that I wouldn't argue with, right?
Yeah.
Well, if we're kind of done with the area map, DJ, are you up for talking us about the codex?
Oh, good. Oh, we talked about the codex. Oh, I thought this was the bad bit. No, this is the
we
good
are
bit.
running a little long, DJ. I mean, we're okay, obviously, but we're about 10 minutes
There are
over.
plenty
Okay,
of things
well,
to
look.
cover, so yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'm
Look.
just
No wonder we're long.
Codex.
Exactly.
I'll cover really quickly. It's not fully working yet. What is working is really cool. It should add loads to Elite going forward, and it's a tool that obviously Frontier are just going to iteratively add to, and the more that gets put in there, the more useful it's going to be. Overall, just a net positive.
Yeah.
to cover that super quickly and super, you know.
Just one thing to add to that. Where's the Pilots Federation? It's like having a history book that has a chapter on Camelot and Atlantis and nothing on the Industrial Revolution. I mean, it just makes no sense whatsoever. I hope that they just haven't put it in yet, because if there's a reason why it's not in there, I want to know.
Well, and you know, DJ, what we didn't do, and I let's assume that not everybody's seen the Frontier streams and stuff. Why don't you just briefly tell everybody a little bit about what the Codex is?
So
give us like a paragraph on it.
Okay, so the Codex is a repository of knowledge. There's a section on history, so you can catch up on that sort of thing, current affairs, that sort of crap. There's also sections on the galaxy map where you have rumors of things that have possibly been that people think are there. There's stuff that's been discovered that it tells you where you can go and see it. It maps it's a personal history. It tracks a lot of what you do and all of that sort of thing. Basically, it's an amalgamation of several things. This is another feature where you could argue it would have been nice for this to have been in from day one, but the important thing is it's in now, and it is going to be. This is something where you can clearly see a lot is going to be built on top of it. Yeah, there's clear like plans to add more and more and more, and it will just become a more useful resource.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, it's one of the things that I'm, especially the exploration part of being able to know that someone has found X in this place, and here's basically what it is. I think that's huge, right? This shared, one of the things we didn't necessarily mention, if people don't realize, is the fact that now exploration data is essentially shared, right? So that, as people discover things, that's going into, call it a universal database in the Codex, right? That everybody gets access to. So I think that's huge, right? There's no more, so it's up until now, there's been pockets of groups and stuff that know, that there's knowledge about all these cool shits in all these different various places. Now we bring it all into one place, and, and there you go. Right. So I think it's great.
Yeah.
Yamiks, did you have something you wanted to chime in on the Codex? Was that before?
DJ, you go first.
Well, no, we're not doing that yet, are we?
Yeah, he wants to talk squadrons, which we're not quite to.
Yeah, we're not doing
gotcha.
squadrons yet.
Yeah, not yet.
Right,
not
so
yet.
Codex, to quickly go over, of course, it's nice to have this book of lore finally in the game. Oh my god, I'm creaming my lore pants. No, but seriously though, this is a positive thing. And
I am.
well, yeah, as broken as it is, at least now, literally even now in the beta, whatever we have in the beta is more lore that we've gotten in those fucking 5 years, even during beta thing, literally, of the game. That just shows how horrible the fucking lore was previously delivered. There you go.
Yeah, it's not the quality of the lore, it's how it's been delivered that's always been the issue, right?
I completely agree.
We can judge quality later, at the later date.
But it's
too.
certainly a problem.
That's not today. But now, again, probing and the codex together make a fantastic pair, and those are probably my fucking favorite things. Although I didn't really hoped or really wanted them to be anything else.
I'm a
now
miner
they quickly
now.
become the best fucking thing for me.
I'm a miner now.
Non sequitur. Moving on.
Yeah.
No,
so
talk about
okay,
things
so,
you weren't expecting to be excited about.
Well, yeah, but let's not go to mining yet. We got a week before we can do mining. Nobody's a miner yet. You might plan to be a miner, like I do too. It looks fucking great, but let's get there in a sec. We've got 20 minutes before we'll get to squadrons. If anybody doesn't have anything more to add to the codex, Turgeon, you've been fairly quiet. Anything and Obsidian, anything else you guys would throw in about the codex?
Not really. It's a very useful thing to has the lore. It is voice acted as well, so you can listen to it in the background. Everything's laid out in a decent way. They did put the community suggested names on the galaxy map as well, so that's
a nice
very
touch,
nice
isn't it?
bonus.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's nothing wrong with the codex at all. It's what it should have been years ago. It's nice to see it finally there.
And it's nice.
I just do want the Pilots Federation in there. That's all
seems a bit of an oversight, doesn't it? That one.
It does. It does.
Bizarre.
It's also
Especially
nice.
when in lore terms, it's probably the Pilots Federation that's written the software that you're reading the codex on.
Yeah. It's also nice not to have to rely on out-of-game resources anymore. I mean, you don't have to wait for someone on Reddit to post a discovery.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
That's right.
Everything you want to find, you can find from within the game now. And that's
just to warn everybody
good.
quickly, if you look in the codex under the gas clouds, it lists 2 in Shinrarta. They are not there. It's a bug. So if you get all excited and think one of them's close, the closest discovered now is like 12,000 light years out. So don't get all excited thinking the Lagrange clouds are right here in Shinrarta, because they are not. So anyway, just to throw that in. I didn't really assign anybody this. Who wants to talk scenarios? I mean, I've done a few of them. I can start it. Anybody else got a burning desire to do that?
I'll jump in and to start. Scenarios
Okay,
were the thing that I alluded to that hadn't been revealed yet that I was most excited about. This is something that we haven't seen from Elite before. The structure of the missions, the fact that you can compete on these missions from opposing sides, the fact that they're voiced, everything about this is a step up. And I genuinely just didn't expect to see it, and I'm thoroughly impressed. Obviously, this is, again, a set of tools that's going to be iteratively developed on, right? They now have the ability to make these things, and they'll just add more and more in over time. And to be honest, they'll probably get better at making them, because with practice comes, you get better at shit, right? So yeah, I suspect that scenarios are something that we'll look back upon as a major changing, like a major moment in the history of Elite Dangerous. I think it's really important. I really do.
Yeah, no, I think so too. I mean, I've done a couple. Yamiks and I did one together, and the one we had was seemingly bugged because it just wouldn't.
Either A, it didn't start, or B, it just simply doesn't start all the time, and it is.
Right. Well, you remember it?
Maybe I don't know.
Yeah, like we did one in a conflict,
even with delay again.
Well, no, I'm saying the delay was
always started.
Right. So I think that if we assume just some of those are the natural bugs of beta, right? Which I'm completely fine with that being the case, right? I think they could potentially be extremely cool. I'm with everybody else, right? It finally gives us something like that to do that's kind of real. It's what we do now. I think the addition, I think I saw in the patch notes, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, it said that like 3,000 lines of spoken dialogue were added. something to that effect.
I
which
thought it
think
was
is-
even more
Yeah, it
than
said
that.
3,000. Yeah.
Oh, was it
Yeah, okay.
3,000?
Yeah, so
Yeah,
3,000,
and
which
so
is it's a
I-
lot. Yeah, it's a lot.
Right, and I thought that's, I mean, all around, I think it's great. I hope they obviously tighten it up, and it's, the experience Yamiks and I had was like, one of the things that was interesting, like this war correspondent was in the conflict zone that we had to escort for a couple minutes to make sure they didn't get killed. And I just thought, come from an immersion standpoint, that was really pretty cool, right? That here we're in a battle and there's thank you.
Lol.
There it is. And I thought that was very cool. Now it was very drawn out, and it was a lot of like, okay, all right, yeah, she's safe now. Can we do something else? Twiddling our thumbs. So if they tighten that up, I think it could be great. But I see that being expandable like crazy. I worry, the cynic in me worries that like a lot of the different systems in Elite, it could be expanded. And 2 years from now, I'm going to be saying, would you guys have thought 2 years ago when this got introduced that we wouldn't have gotten a single new scenario in 2 years? I sadly can feel me saying that in 2 years. I hope I'm wrong, but I think it's possible. Anybody else with scenarios, or should we kind of?
I can quickly go over my
No,
experience if need be.
please.
Okay,
Yeah.
right. So, essentially, the scenarios in my case would be resulting in unidentified signal sources being fleshed out, which is, I guess, kind of good. But realistically speaking, I'm already bored of him immediately. Just a couple of resets of one specific, or well, couple of them, as a matter of fact, and I'm bored of them. I mean, sure, yeah, they're fleshed out, but it's just that adding a little bit more detail, and it doesn't really make it that great. I don't know. I'm opposite to DJ. I'm not hoping for it to be any better or worse. It's just, So yeah, that's my take on it.
Fair enough. Obsidian, you said that you had tried them, but were not really able to get them to spawn.
Yeah, I think the idea of the scenarios is a good one. I think it's taken a leap in the right direction. It's something that's really needed. But so far, I've only been able to do the megaship scenarios. I've not been able to get the other ones activated. I've dropped into a bunch of distress signals. I've dropped into some of the convoy ones. One of Frontier's forum posts, they've listed the type of signals that these scenarios are supposed to occur in, but I haven't been able to actually find any just yet. So I'm going to keep trying. I guess if there's any fault with it that I could point out, is make sure that people can actually experience it. Otherwise, it's going to be like the old Thargoid interdictions, isn't it? Where only a small percentage of people got to see it. I know there's the other
or
argument
very
that
quickly
you don't want it there all the time for everyone.
Sure,
But,
sure.
you know,
Or it very
there's right
quickly
balance.
turns into CQC where nobody cares about it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Right.
but no, I think they're a good thing for the game. Definitely.
Yeah, great. Well, next is kind of, if we want to go through it, is kind of summary, although, we can kind of make that a little shorter. We're a little ahead of schedule for now, guys.
Do we
and
need
move
a
on.
summary?
Well, I was going to say, I don't know that we necessarily do. We just do it at the end and we move on to bringing our guest in and talking about squadrons.
Yeah, I think we can move on. Otherwise, we'll probably be repeating ourselves again. Otherwise,
No, I think that's great.
Yeah.
I'd rather be I'd rather be more brief than not.
Okay. So who's gonna move?
Go ahead, Obsidian. Yeah,
There we are.
go ahead and introduce him. Obsidian, you invited him.
We want to talk about squadrons as well on this stream, because obviously Frontier revealed both squadrons last night as well as some mining content. And to talk about squadrons, obviously I haven't got a player guild or player group. I'm not so sure about Exigeous. I think you might have one.
I do.
Is that right? Yeah, Exigeous has got one.
I do.
But DJ's obviously got a rather large one, so he's got a rather large player group. That
Giggity,
I wouldn't
giggity, goo.
I wouldn't know about anything else.
Cool.
And Shan has also got.
You asked for it.
Shan has also. Yeah, I did with that, didn't I? And Shan has also got some pretty good experience with guilds. In this case, not with Elite Dangerous. He's got a big guild outside of Elite Dangerous with Guild Wars 2, and he'll talk a little bit more about that. So we thought we'd have a guest speaker on to give us some contrast as well with the tools that are available in Elite versus what's available for groups in other games. So, Shan, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, perhaps?
Yeah, tell us a little about yourself and group and everything first, Shan.
Yeah, no problem. Hopefully I'm coming out okay from
We
the
gotcha,
sound.
yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you good.
Okay, cool. Yeah, basically, guilds and communities are, if you like, my thing in MMOs and online games. If it hasn't got the ability to um, generate a good community, a good feeling of togetherness and doing events and stuff like that, then it kind of turns me off. So with that in mind, I've actually been a guild leader in Guild Wars, the Guild Wars franchise, and in other games for over 14 years. And the guilds I've managed to been over 1,000 people, and at pretty much every point the guilds I've run have been recognised as real community leaders within the games they've been in. An example in Guild Wars One is we did an event that lasted 24 hours and helped well in excess of 32,000 people in one go, just purely from volunteers within my guild doing it. So guilds are a really important thing for me, and I was very keen to see what Frontier was going to do in this space. So I don't know whether you guys want to get a word in, or whether you want me to
Well,
continue.
one of the questions I've had from my chat, and I'd like to hear this too, Shan, is tell us a little bit about the player group you're involved with. You know, give the elite context as well.
Okay, well, I'm kind of not really,
Okay.
because I've got so many different groups of friends, and I'm in so many different private groups. I tend to go where my friends are. So, for example, I'm one of the hosts of Late Radio. So when the Late Radio crew are
There
doing
you go.
stuff, I'll go to Late Radio. If I want to say help CD out or something like that, I'll go in his private group, and it just kind of varies. I'm very much a floating voter, so to speak, in this because for me it's the people, not the structure, that's important.
Completely agree.
Yeah. No.
Absolutely agree.
Yeah. Absolutely. Right. Yeah. So, do we want to start with Shan, with your kind of take on what we saw? Yeah. Why don't we just Obsidian? Did you have anything more specific that you were thinking?
No, we can just. I think the guys who want to talk about it, go for it. I've not personally
Yeah.
got
Do we want
much
to talk?
experience with groups or guilds, so there's not really much
Yeah.
I could add. So,
Shan, do you want to kind of tell us again? Why don't we assume that not everybody's seen what they presented, and maybe talk a little bit about what we are going to get, and then segue into it. What you think isn't working, what needs to be added. That does that make sense?
It does, yes. Although I think
Yeah.
DJ is probably literally going to
Oh,
burst
sure,
out of his
sure,
skin
sure. I
this
see
minute.
that now. Sorry, DJ, I wasn't seeing the raised hands. Go, DJ. What you got, buddy? And you can explain it too,
Okay.
DJ, if you want to do it that way. That's great with me too.
So, squadrons is a feature that I have been looking forward to for a very, very, very long time, and I am now basically wondering if it's even worth us forming one. The only relevance that we're really going to get from it is for our more BGS heavy people to be able to track what they're doing better. The vast majority of the tools are useless, and they're completely negated by the fact that you can only be in one guild at one time. Now, a lot of people have pointed out to me that that's true in a lot of MMOs, but in a lot of MMOs you can have multiple characters, which you cannot do in Elite if you don't buy multiple accounts. Now, what that means is that, as an example, somebody who is in the Sovereignty, a Fuel Rat, and also a member of Canon is going to have to pick between the three, and that's before you mention the little group that they've got with their friends. Yeah? Now, the truth is that not being... both by making it a single group thing, where you can only be in a single group at a time, and providing no way for... like, even a way for us to easily say, like, yeah, the people from that group can just join ours and vice versa easily. Yeah? An alliance type system that facilitates movement between groups. Things like Distant Worlds. How many people wanted to go out and rep Distant Worlds as in a squadron with that, yeah? But now they have to leave their main squadron to go and do that? That seems nonsensical. It really has killed the feature for me. Did they keep the public Discord, the public voice channel, text channel? Was that mentioned?
I don't remember them mentioning that.
Okay, I won't rant about that then, just in case.
Okay.
Because if that's in place, that was terrible. The permission system is quite neat. The one thing that is undeniably awesome about it is group bookmarks. utterly love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, utterly adore that. Even just the ability to go, this is our home, yeah, with a nice fat bookmark, and just be like, go there. That's great. I really like that. But there are glaring oversights, and we tried to talk to them about this on the day when we were there, about the fact that this one group per person thing was going to cause issues. And last night in the chat was just full. Every other question, it seemed like, can we be in more than one group? Can we be in more than one group? Can we be in more than one group? It's so important to people because of the way Elite has grown before having a guild system. There is so much cross-pollination between groups, so much, you know, I'm a member of half a dozen. Yeah?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, same here. Yeah, I'm with you, right?
And I'm only ever going to be able to rep the sovereignty. And you know, that's our in-bubble faction, not our one that's tied to our faction out in Colonia, because that has to be a separate faction, right?
Exactly. Yep.
All of these things come together to just be awkward and to make the system so much less than it could have been. Because for the most part, it's providing us things that, let's be honest, we all already have in place in Discord.
Outside of game, yeah. And just to back up a brief second to make sure everybody, and I don't know if there's anybody listening that doesn't get at a conceptual level what squadrons is, right? You know, it gives us the ability to essentially group together for things like you've mentioned, bookmarks and chat, conceivably missions, things like that, to, you know, to give us that unity. But I'm with you, DJ, that the whole single squadron thing, for a lot of us that kind of, Obsidian hit at this beginning, that lead groups like myself, right? So of course we're going to have our group's level 11. Of course we're going to have one. And now that means I pretty much have to be in and run that one. So now I am kind of screwed by that, to your point, DJ, of jumping into another one, right? But that's what the feature is. I'm going to kick it back to Shan to talk about like what, and you know, DJ was getting at this too, but more of what the community really needs out of this that it's not giving us. Because I'll admit, I've never played a game with a guild system, so a lot of me saw this and was like, wow, this is awesome. So I think I'm a lot of potentially the viewers are that don't maybe understand what we're missing out on, right? So yeah, so take it with that, Shan.
Yeah, no problem. I will echo what DJ has said, but I kind of want to expand on it a bit, because the guild system that Frontier implemented dates from when guild systems were put in back in 2005. So we're talking about a 13-year-old way of doing guilds and clans. It is outdated. So in terms of the difference, and this is what I hoped wouldn't happen, but seems to have. I wanted to know, what does the squadron system offer that Discord doesn't? Because it has to offer something different to Discord, otherwise there is no point to it existing. And the only thing I can think of that it does offer differently is this competitive leaderboard functionality, in which a squadron's contribution to trading, exploration, PvP, whatever it is totted up and then put on a leaderboard for every season, however long that is. So that in itself is okay. I mean, I've seen other systems do that before. However, what tends to happen is you have a Zerg guild who people just join because you get shinies at the end of it, and then that guild just dominates everything forevermore.
I
And
was part of one, by the way.
yeah, and the other thing it tends to do is it then introduces a way of guild leaders trying to measure players' contribution. I.e., you haven't ground enough this week. You are the weakest link. Goodbye, and you then kick someone out because they haven't contributed to
They
the.
haven't done their work.
Yeah, they haven't been a slave for the week.
Yeah.
And the whole leaderboard thing, yes, I can kind of see why they've done it, because they had to make it different to what Discord offers. However, for the majority of players, the leaderboard will be irrelevant because they'll never ever get on it.
Yeah, agreed.
So, and the other thing is around the single the single guild per player or squadron per player. I completely agree with you, DJ. They have hamstrung the squadron feature by that. They really have. And there are people who say, well, actually, I want to be loyal to my squadron. I don't want to travel around. Well, that's fine. If you only
just
ever
pick
want
one.
to do that, then do it. But players need the option, particularly if I believe the limit they said for B2 was 500 players per squadron.
Yeah, I believe that's right.
No hint if it's going to be increased. But DJ, I believe the sovereignty is substantially larger than 500 people.
To be honest, yes, but realistically, and this is something that I expect to find with all of the large player groups, yes, we are, but two things are going to keep us from filling it. One, the single player group thing. That will hamstring us massively. The second is that realistically, yeah, we've got 2,000 odd people, but about 500 of them are active at any one time. Yeah,
but
that's true of any group. So I don't expect us to fill a squadron with it as it is. Had it been that you could join multiple squadrons, we probably would have filled 2 or 3. And we had no problem with having multiple squadrons. You know, that's not an issue to us. But no, with the way it's set up, I don't expect to fill out like 500 for me. With the system as it is a comfortable cap, because I don't expect to realistically ever fill it out.
Go ahead, Obsidian. Sorry. No, please. Go, Shan.
Yeah, what I was going to come into was typically when you have a guild or a clan or whatever that exceeds the number of slots in there, well, from the first of all, it becomes a complete pain in the bum for anyone trying to manage it, because you have to continually look through the roster to see who's not been on for a month and tidy up to make room for people who are. But then the other way people do it is they have an account or a character, the same character, in each guild that they can then manage centrally. So they have a group of core players that they trust who don't mind spending the time and effort, because running a clan and a guild is bloody hard work. Who don't mind spending that effort, who they trust. They then have like the board of directors, if you like, that then sit in each satellite clan. With the single player per squadron, you can't do that. So it becomes really hard to organize if you have that spread of clans. So yeah, it's not just, I want to play with fuel rats or I want to do this. There's a whole other dimension of organization and structure and day-to-day running of a clan that's going to be a pain in the bum. And the way Frontier have tried to get around it is by saying, well, actually, if you want to join your friend's clan for a game or something, just leave yours and come back. Well, that's great, but some poor sap has got to be online waiting for you to accept your invite when you come back.
Which is fine for us large squadrons, right? For someone like us, where we've got people around the world who will be online throughout the course of the day and night, it will be easy for applications to be dealt with like that. For any group that's not of the size of the sovereignty, that's not realistic at all. Totally. And this is where I try to argue this so much with Frontier. I'm trying to look at this from everyone's point of view. I'm aware I run a much larger group than most, and I'm aware that we aren't the best test case. Yeah, things that we would want might not necessarily make any sense for other people. I've tried to look at it from a point of view of how would this be useful to everyone? And a lot of the things that are in there aren't useful. They're, like we say, essentially replications of Discord features. And trust me, are we going to use the text channels in-game to keep in touch with our group? No. We're going to use Discord, because that's where everyone's used to it. That's where, it's easy to see. It's all organized.
Now, let me throw something in there, GJ. When we talk about that, I think that for all of us PC Master Race people, that's absolutely true. Do you think that's a very different case for console players, right?
Actually, no, because Discord works on a smartphone.
That's fair.
In all honesty, when I've spoken to Xbox and PlayStation groups about this, they have the same point of view.
Okay. That's I guess what I was getting at. Like,
that seems to, and if you're a console person,
we are.
Yeah, that's what I good chance to put this out there. If you're a console person watching, and you're going, actually, no, bullshit, this is really useful to us, please say so. and we can take that into account because I'm not a console player. I have
yeah, that's
spoken
actually
to console
interesting
players.
for me to hear too. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'd love to hear that same thing from chat.
I've spoken to console players. I've talked to people, and from the most part, the reaction has been identical to ours. We've got Discord for that.
Yeah. Okay. And that's fair. Right. Like one of the things I was going to talk about, and I don't think I've seen any feature like this, and I wonder what you guys think of this, is the ability for squadrons to essentially ally with other squadrons. Right. Like, is there any kind of mechanic that you guys have seen or heard, or did I miss anything? Is there that sort of idea? Right. Because it seems to me that would be another important or interesting thing. I know that, like in my player group is still relatively, and I say mine, the player group I'm in is relatively small. Right. And we know a lot of, and I know a lot of the PvPers where all of the different PvP groups are actually very small. Right. Like I think 50 is big for any of the PvP groups. If any, I don't even know if any of the top guys are that big. And so I reached out to a bunch of them and said, hey, I don't know that this from just a logistic standpoint makes sense and can work, but what if all of these little groups like that got together and formed one bigger squad to have bigger benefits of that? Do we care? That kind of stuff, because there isn't that ally ability. Right? Or at least I haven't seen that. If I'm missing it, you guys tell me, right? Because it seems that that's another missing thing. Shan, is that a common thing in these kind of things? Is that something that's missing? Do you see a way that we're going to be able to do that?
I think Frontier has said no alliances like that.
And,
I mean,
I
going
think
back to
that
Guild
seems
Wars 1, that has an almost identical system to what Frontier put in. You had one account, and although you could have multiple characters, only one account could be in only one guild ever in one, unless you moved and swapped. What they then did, they then realized that how restrictive that was. So they then added the ability to have alliance guilds where you could share the same chat and do stuff together and stuff like that. So back in 2006, they realized actually this system doesn't work. We want an alliance, but Frontier have said no alliances.
Yeah, so just for context, that's a system that's 12 years old at that point. They realised that 12 years ago, yeah?
Correct. Yeah. This is ArenaNet, yeah.
And
well, we've said that before.
And this was something that I raised again at the day when we were at Frontier. And seriously, we went on about this for so long that most people ended up breaking for lunch. Because we really did try to hammer home to them that this was going to be the reaction. We knew that this was how it was going to go. It's no surprise to me that, lo and behold, the features come out and everyone's just going, well, why can't I join more than one?
Yeah, agreed.
The truth is there are player groups, in inverted commas, in this game that are institutions. The Fuel Rats, Cannon, the prime examples. Yeah. They aren't player groups, they are institutions. They are things that are now ingrained into the psyche and the consciousness of the game. And that's wonderful that player-owned organisations have gotten to that point. But it then presents this problem for Frontier where, what are you going to do? Like, you're now making people choose between their friends, essentially. That's what it comes down to at the end of the day, right?
Yeah. Obsidian, what were you jumping in with? Sorry, I kind of took your slot.
No problem at all. Just for one comparison's sake, very quickly, what DJ and Shan are suggesting there, the ability to join multiple groups, is by no means a unique thing. I think Elder Scrolls Online lets you join 5 guilds. Pretty sure you can do it now in World of Warcraft, and Guild Wars 2 as well lets you join more than one group. So it's not a thing that's totally implausible and not done anywhere else. But the thing I wanted to ask both you and DJ, actually, Shan, is it's come up a couple of times in chat that back in the early days of Elite Dangerous, David Graven specifically said guilds were not going to be a thing for Elite Dangerous, that Frontier didn't really see guilds as being something that would be a thing for this game. And there seems to be a feeling that guilds and player groups are two different things. I'm not sure I agree with that, but what's your thoughts on that, Shan?
Well, it was somewhat of a revelation I had before the show, actually. I was reading through the forum and I've forgotten who it was. They made a sort of an off-the-cuff comment. I thought, okay, there could be something to that. And they asked the question is, what if squadrons aren't actually meant to be guilds, more like permanent wings of players? So we see squadrons and we think guilds and clans and stuff like that. Where actually what you're doing is you're forming a permanent wing of players.
Yeah, so it could be Frontiers have got a very specific view on what they think a squadron is, and players are perhaps asking for more than what it actually is intended to be. Could
That's
that
not
be a
what
case?
they sold us, though. That's
No, well, I
not
mean,
what's
if
been
you
sold
think about
here.
it in law terms, everybody's part of the Pilots Federation Guild anyway. So that's where they're coming from in terms of the origin of the law. And anything less than that is a sort of subset that's going to have watered down this, that, and the other. So it's going to be great. It's going to be, yeah, it's like a big wing, but it's never going to be the guild equivalent that people are expecting in MMORPGs, because we're all already in one compared to the rest of the galaxy.
Yeah,
But
well,
it's just, again, it's just not mentioned. It's in the background. It's not mentioned.
Um,
You know.
yeah, go on, DJ.
in-
What's your thoughts?
well, so again, I realise I lead a larger group. We're an outside case, yeah. But the number of restrictions that are put in place with this, you know, you say it's supposed to be a permanent wing. Who's that for? Are we talking about this is for the you know, the groups of 5, 10, 15 friends that play together? Because most groups are bigger than that. Yeah.
It was just a question I thought to throw out there.
Yeah. I think that's wrong. I think that they are trying to make a guild system. I think, you know, Obsidian brought up that David Braben never thought guilds were going to be a thing in this game. That wasn't because he's against them, it's because he genuinely didn't see people playing Elite like that. They came at the game from the point of view that people would play it like they played the old Elites. That you're just a lone pilot going about doing your business, and every now and then you'd run into someone else. They never saw us grouping together in the way that we have.
That just makes them clueless to the whole industry.
Well, they've never
I mean,
developed an
Simple as
MMO.
that.
They've never developed an MMO
yeah, exactly.
before.
They've never
Yeah.
developed.
They
an MMO.
haven't, but others have. That's
yeah,
the
but
thing.
they're working.
Right.
They're working from a law base that basically was never designed to support an MMO.
Yeah.
It was always intended as a lone pilot doing his thing against this backdrop that you're part of a group, but it's never fleshed out. It's never truly specified what your role in that group is. It's just a group, and it's an excuse for you to be the player. You translate that into an MMO world, and they just didn't at the start, because they didn't anticipate that it was going to go in this direction. So they're trying to cobble on MMORPG features onto something that they never actually put the foundation on
Yeah.
to build. That's what it comes down to, isn't it, really?
And Squadrons, even now, Squadrons is easily savable. Yeah, it can be a great feature. You just have to do a couple of things. And the primary one is let people be in multiple squadrons, for God's sake. Because with that restriction in place, you are hamstringing the whole thing. You're taking what is a really exciting feature, genuinely to the point that I'm going to have to call a meeting with those in my group that help me administrate everything. And you know, with Bog, who actually runs the player group side of things, like, you know, full disclosure, I don't run the player group anymore. I'm now CEO of the LLC, and my main day-to-day is taken up running the stream team side of things. Bognogus is the one in charge of the day-to-day running of the player group. And the amount of extra administration this is going to put on us, we have to sit there and think, is it, like, in all honesty, is it worth it? And are we going to keep using it? Because if we're, you know, if it's a thing that everyone's going to be yay about for a month and then forget about, what's the point?
The other thing is, I'll just jump in,
please.
DJ, is I was asking myself, well, what are squadrons for? Because someone asked me yesterday on TeamSpeak, okay, Shan, what would your idea for squadrons be? How would you have done it? And I went through the stuff we talked about, you know, larger membership, more than one squadron per player, all that sort of stuff. I also said, actually, you need stuff for bigger groups of players other than a wing to do. You need to be able to have objectives. And I'm not just talking about the classic raid example, because they have their own downsides too, but I'm talking about specific things that you can get all your squadron mates together and go, right, let's go for this objective, let's do this, let's do that, because as I think that Turjan pointed out, is the people want to be sociable. They want to mix, they want to communicate, they want to do stuff with each other, because that's why you have an online game. If you don't want to do that, then either buy a single player game. I hear X4 is going to be very good, or
If it works.
well, yeah,
Chill, how dare you?
it's all right, but you can kind of get the point. Is people? Then the
Yeah.
reason why we've got this community together is because people want to be sociable. They want to join up. They want to join in. They want to contribute. They don't want to be a lone pilot in a Cobra Mark III, Del Boy and Rodney around the galaxy. Just take your stuff. They want to be together. They want to, and what we've got with Squadrons just doesn't enable that. I can't see it lasting very long. And Discord will just take over. It'll
The thing
just
that...
become
Oh, sorry.
No, carry on.
The thing that I would have added to like the feature that isn't in there in any way, shape, or form that I would have added to, I think, give squadrons real purpose would be the ability to essentially set in squadron CGs. Yeah. So
Like
this
squadron
week,
goals.
yep, squadron
Great.
goals. This week
Yeah.
we want you bringing cargo into this place. Yeah. This week we want you killing NPCs in this system. This
Yep,
week
like
we
that.
want you,
Uh-huh.
and you can have internal leaderboards, which encourages competition, which is nice. That's a good thing.
Exactly, and it doesn't even need to cause inflation, if there is such a thing in the game, because you could have the players put together a pool of money or rewards or something like that, and then the winner of the CG gets the
Yeah.
reward, or you break it down so you can generate your own content. And that is what Elite, I think, why it flourishes is it's very good at encouraging people to generate their own content, which is great, but it should have been in squadrons as well, as you're saying.
Yeah, give us more tools to do it. The more tools you give us, the more we will do with them.
Well, and don't give us things that, and the problem too is this, it's not that they're giving us the tools. The tool they're giving us is so limiting that, we effectively can't do what we want to with it. Right. Yeah. I mean, that's...
And imagine if you did have that system, you could organize, along with being able to join multiple player groups, or multiple squadrons, sorry, right? You have those two systems in place, right? So then we all get together, a load of sort of group leaders, all gather together and go, right, we're going to create, throwaway factions for a week. We're going to choose a system, and we're going to have a fucking war. Yeah, and you have 3 or 4 factions in there with competing squadron goals. One's doing a cargo run, one's doing a piracy run, one's doing a bounty hunting run. You encourage everyone to play an open, and holy shit, could you imagine the gameplay that would come from that? If anyone's been playing long enough to remember the Lu War, that's pretty much a recipe to recreate that. And literally, you add in those two things, and that's what we as a community can give you instantly. But we need those tools. Right now, there's no way of doing that.
Yeah. Yamiks, you got your rant all ready to go?
Oh boy. Well, right. So let's start with this. Let's start from the top, right? So, squadron size, right? So DJ talked about this stuff and so on and so forth, but no, filling 500 seats is very easy. Very fucking easy, considering that within PlanetSide 2 that I played quite a bit and joined the biggest outfit at the time, the so-called Zerg fit or Zerg guild or whatnot else. A fucking 1,000 is even easy when you start accepting everyone, right? And even when you start sorting things out, 1,000 is easy, and that was PlanetSide, a game that literally has way less players on the daily basis playing the fucking thing, even at the time, right? So Elite, I mean, fucking hell. First of all, they don't have server restrictions, so anyone from anywhere, they can join anywhere. So limiting 500 just seems like a either
It seems
incompetent
arbitrary to me.
First of all, it just seems like either whoever coded the fucking thing is incompetent and works either with old tools, or is incompetent and can't really fucking make the thing bigger, because the code that the people or the person or whatever are making just somehow doesn't work, as long as the list is bigger than 500, what it else. That's how it feels. Of course, I'm not there to go after anyone's head, but still, 500, seriously, that's stupid. And no, other games, smaller games, as a matter of fact, prove Elite wrong. And saying that squadrons come with additional bonus and so on and so forth on top of it. Remember the fact that any Johnny, Dicky, Billy, Bobby, and Bitchy can make a fucking squadron, right?
Right.
They can make a fucking squadron, no problem. And yet they are limited to 500 members. So at this point, again, there will be just simply squadron fuel rats 1, fuel rats 2, fuel rats 3, and so on and so forth.
Right. Well, imagine what Mobius is going to do if they.
And you're telling me that you can't basically make the squadrons bigger because whatever you coded is just breaking apart. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you such a good programmers? Then make the fucking good program, not rather just give me excuses. That's literally what I can say about the fucking squadron size. I am disappointed, and it does feel like that they are just simply admitting that they can't code the fucking thing. I mean, goddamn. Anyways, moving on. Right, after that, the leaderboards. Personally, I don't like the leaderboards and squadrons. Yes, it allows this whole competitive thing, which is nice. Yeah, fine. But I personally just, considering that there are so many different, different playstyles within the game, I don't know. It does feel like it might be just too arbitrary for too many people. Maybe. I don't know. Anyways, so yeah, maybe squadron leaderboards could have been held off for some other feature and so on and so forth. Right. After that, there's also the question of why do you need to pay for creation? Can anyone right now here give me a good reason why squadrons need some sort of upfront cost to create them?
I didn't get
To
that
stop,
either.
to stop
the only
spamming.
thing I
It's
guess
just
I could
to stop
see
spamming.
that. I guess I could see
Okay,
that.
DJ. Okay, fine, DJ. Why? Okay, spamming. In what way you mean that?
Like
They
creating a
wanted
squadron
to
for every
provide-
single player.
DJ, come on, I want DJ's
Yeah, they
answer, for fuck's
they
sakes.
wanted to stop people by the looks of things just from creating everyone just creating their own squadron, and a 10 million
And the bad
gate.
thing there is,
It doesn't encourage people to play together. In all honesty. And also, being brutally honest, it's a goal to aim for. It's another thing where you can just be like, right, that's what I really want to do. I've got to get in and earn my 10 million to start a squadron. Yeah, it's a goal to aim for. For some people, that'll be a driving thing.
I'd love
Well,
to
I
hear
think
from
the only
Shan
reason
there.
that they've
never
put it there is because everybody else does. Every other guild or group or something out there that's purporting to be a group of players, it's always got some in-game cash cost. There is literally no reason in Elite. There's no law justifiable reason why you should have a 10 million credit thing for setting up a squadron, but every other game does. So
What it does do,
there because
what it does do is, and other games have a similar kind of mechanic. You have to pay or in-game currency or do some quests to get in. What it's about, because it costs you something, you are then invested in it, and because you're then invested in it, you are then more encouraged to make a go of it. So it's a kind of, it costs you something, so therefore it's worth something. So
All right.
that's the theory around it. I'm not
Right, the
saying
whole
10 million
theory of
viral-
psychology. Right, I gotcha. Right.
Just the
My
questions.
counterpoint to that, frankly, is quite simple. Let's say there are a group of friends that just come together and just want to play the game casually without, grinding for money and whatnot else. And, well, they end up making a squadron and then join, or rather get more people joining and more and more and more. All that become, rather was created because there was no need for a specific requirement. They could just simply, without the need, just open their own little band of misfits and whatnot else and play together. That, to me, is an encouragement to play together. If you have a squadron, you invite someone in it rather than exclude someone. So
What
that
I'm
is my thing.
Yeah, what I'm surprised is they haven't introduced. And Frontier, if you're listening, don't do this. But what I'm surprised they didn't do was actually make it cost the player to join the
I
squadron.
thought they were going to do
Because-
that too. Yeah.
Then that would be even worse. That'd be just retarded. Bottom line. Right. Let's see what else about the squadrons.
Shan, well, I think was Shan. Were you
Fuck
trying
it.
to
Let's
jump
go.
in with
Yeah,
something?
I'll rant. I've ranted already now. So
Yeah, I was
go
going to
ahead.
make a comment on the leaderboards. The other side effect of having the leaderboards, it then celebrates squadrons that contribute in game tangible ways. It doesn't celebrate squadrons that contribute in wider ways. For example, people will look at the leaderboard and they'll think, "Oh, this guild is top PvP guild. They're really good," or "This squadron is amazing at exploration. They do this." So squadrons like the Fuel Rats won't get any credit at all because people will look at the leaderboards and think, "Oh, they're the top squadrons." So, would you say places like Cannon, Fuel Rats, they just won't get any recognition in game at all because all the focus will then be on the leaderboards.
Yeah. No,
So
I can see that. Yeah. Yeah.
you need to have a set collection of things that leaderboards are for, and you can't do that in a sandbox game where people have set their own agendas. Like with the Fuel Rats, you're not going to have how many people have you saved this month kind of thing. It's just not going to show up in a list, is it? Because these are like set lists. So yeah, it's not really workable in an open world. Oh.
Yeah. DJ, what did you have to jump in with before we close out?
I hate to be negative. I adore this game. You lot often moan that I'm too positive, but on this one, for a group like
Join the
us,
darkness.
for a group like
Join
us,
the dark side.
lol, for a group like us to genuinely having to hold a meeting to discuss whether it's worth the admin time that it is going to add to form a squadron, I think speaks huge volumes about how much it's not what the player base wants and needs. And, we've said it a few times tonight, Frontier, if you're listening, and there is anything you can do about this, even if it is just a, look, we can't do it now, but at a later date, we will get
We
this done.
promise it's coming.
Yeah, right. We can accept.
Something's
but
always
please,
coming. Wink, wink.
Please
No, that's
do
true.
something about this because you're killing the system. You honestly are, and you're killing a system that so many of us have been so excited about for so long.
I would suggest that if there are player groups who are thinking of following, and I'm not saying petitions or anything like that, but just politely record what you're doing or not doing to Frontier and just let them say, this is the impact of what this design is, and we're not forming a squadron because of X, Y, and Z. Because it's only through careful critique and respectful feedback will they actually see what the issues are.
Absolutely.
Remember, Frontier are special snowflakes.
Well, they could give us the 3 commander slots they promised back in the early days. Just saying.
Oh, like 3 commanders in your one account.
Yeah, 3 commanders in your one account.
Oh, I didn't realize that was
what
the
they were going to do
promise.
right at the
Okay.
outset. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't. It was a soft promise back in the Kickstarter
Yeah,
days.
fair enough.
But,
Fair enough. Fair enough.
If we had that, no problem. It'd all go away, wouldn't it?
I was about to say again, that would be entirely fine. I wouldn't have a problem with that whatsoever. But yeah, I worry for the. I worry that we're in squadrons. We're looking at the next CQC.
I have that same fear. I have that fear whenever a new big feature comes out, to be honest with you.
But everything else in this update, I don't feel like that about. Yeah. Everything else in this update, I feel really positive about, and like I was saying about scenarios, I can see that it's tools they're going to build on. Yeah. This, I can see this just being swept aside. And
What is worrying, though, is, just for me personally, is games that have the multiple guild system. You know, guild design has moved on from 2005. From what this is based, it's moved on. So why didn't they look at what works in the industry now and the culture of the game player? Because I would suggest that the way most people play games within the clan is they treat their clan like a Facebook group. They're part of several and they flip between them depending on their mood and what's going on. The days of a monogamous guild that tries to do everything, I would suggest, has gone because people in social media, the way they interact, just aren't like that anymore. So why did they not look at what works now and implement that rather than what worked 13 years ago?
That's a very good question. Yeah. Well, on that, if nobody else has anything very specific, I'm gonna, we'll go ahead and start to wrap this up. Why don't we go kind of start where or end where we began in a way, kind of with our, just maybe a last thoughts. I'll kick that out since I'm talking anyway. I would say for me in general, I'm very happy for all the new content. I'm very happy for all the new stuff. I look forward to, we didn't even talk about, we talked about Squadrons most. We didn't even talk about the other huge feature that's coming next week that I'll briefly even mention, and everybody can touch on it in your closings, is mining, which absolutely does look pretty fucking fantastic to me too. So I'm really looking forward to getting my hands on with that. If everybody doesn't realize, the beta is coming out in phases. Next week is Squadrons of Mining. Week 3 is the new ships that, of course, we all already know about anyway. And then there's nothing specific for week 4.
And
if
they're
I'm
just
right.
dragging their feet, just stalling for time.
Yeah, I kind of don't get this delayed rollout either. But regardless, in my opinion, I think for the most part, I'm loving all the new stuff. Any console players out there, if you don't, we should have prefaced with this too, is if you want to install the beta, you just install the beta. Let me say it right, or beta. I guess beta is right, isn't it? If you want to install it, it's a separate account. Anything that happens in beta stays in beta. You don't lose anything. None of it stays with you. So it's a great place to test, right? And Shan, I didn't realize that either. Shan just pointed out that Squadrons are not cross-platform. That's actually, I didn't even think about that. That actually is a huge bummer too, isn't it?
Well, the game is not cross-platform. So
no, but
why would it be, right?
Yeah. Right. I get that. Right. So yeah, I think it's great. Across the board, I'm very happy with stuff. We'll just have to see how things go. DJ, why don't you close this out for yours? What are your thoughts?
So I'm a miner now. Just to touch on that briefly. Seriously, I'm a miner now.
How many times will you repeat that phrase? Come on.
Well, it's true. The moment that we saw it, it was that's how we all felt. The other side of this is like the exploration system. Tomorrow night, I'm going to have a proper go at. But from what I've seen, I really like scenarios. I really do think are game changing. We haven't talked about BGS stuff tonight. I think you guys covered that last week when I wasn't here. But the BGS stuff from my BGS guys is super great. The lighting changes I really like. Other than Squadrons, I am so hyped about this update. Squadrons is just like the sour note in an otherwise perfect like cake, So yeah, please fix Squadrons.
Well,
Obsidian.
No,
Turgeon, that's fine. Go ahead. Yeah, go.
I was going to say, what DJ just said there goes to show that you can't please all the people all the time. It's one of these things, isn't it? He hates the Squadrons aspect of this, but loves everything else. I'm kind of indifferent towards the Squadrons, not too bad, but I just can't be doing with that exploration mechanic. Everything else, love it, but just not that one thing. And It's going to be one of these cases where I think this is one of these updates where there's going to be something in it sooner or later that's going to piss everyone off one way or another.
Oh, well, that's for damn sure. That's for damn sure.
More so than any previous one that I've encountered so far in update terms.
Obsidian.
It's a Marmite. It's the Marmite update. It should be called because it's got stuff in it that's love or hate.
Now, personally, I think it's a brilliant update. The squadrons doesn't really make much difference to me. I'm not a person who jumps in to player groups in much respects anyway, but I totally understand the points that Shan and DJ are raising now. I think they're quite relevant. They seem to be. For the rest of the update, I think the exploration mechanics are much needed. Exploration gameplay was non-existent before. I don't think anyone could say there was actually gameplay there. I mean, I understand that some people, it worked better for them previously, but even then, I think actual gameplay mechanics were lacking, so they're much needed. Really like the graphics update. I think it's going to get more interesting as we get to see some of the other elements, like those clouds that are out there in space and things like that. And I just like overall the way everything in the game is starting to becoming connected together. So using the new discovery tools to find things that you're interested in, whether that's in the codex as well, to find things that other people have found. The fact that planetary discoveries and system discoveries are now a shared thing, so you go out to a system and you make a discovery there and everyone else gets updated with that. It just makes it an all-round much better connected game. I think that's probably the biggest complaint I always previously had with Elite, that everything was separated and disconnected and one aspect of the game never really connected to another aspect. And with this update, it seems to pretty much fix all of that. So yeah, very positive about it.
Yeah. Turgeon, what's your thoughts?
Didn't he already say?
Did he? Well, okay. I mean,
I did.
Okay, we kind of jumped out of order there. So, we'll let maybe Shan give us a final thought since he's the guest. Yamiks, what you got left to rant on?
Right. So going over the changes. So visual.
Never say that.
Hey,
never say that to Yamiks.
Hey. Okay, so right, so basically the visual changes, for that I got to say, artists, get off your fucking paint thinner sniffing phase or whatever you call it. Just deliver a fucking properly looking game rather than just over blurred, over contrasted, over saturated crap that is this. No, go back, try again. Right after that, BGS change. Not a BGS person. Moving after that, we got the discovery scanner thing. Definitely needs to properly be made. And I mean properly fucking made, with the button mapping and so on and so forth. Come on, this is just amateur hour. After that, probing, absolutely love it. Really, nothing bad I can say about it. There's just I can't. So I love it. Good. Moving on then. Squadrons. Yeah. Yeah. Right. And finally. What else did I forgot?
He was trying to get you to end that on "You Love It," wasn't he?
I know.
There was one more thing that was good.
Go on.
The probes. Probing.
Probes. I already said. I love it.
Okay.
Right, scenarios, right.
Scenarios, right.
There you go, scenarios, yeah.
Okay, and codex, love it, but needs to improve. That's about it on my part.
Yeah, okay. Shan, why don't you kind of give us the last thought for joining, and thank you for joining us today, by the way, Shan.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me. Pretty much the same as what I think people have echoed. It's For me, the struggle with the FFS scanner has been separating the mechanics from the control method, because it just looks and feels like it was designed to play on a console and not look at the strength of what a PC interface can do.
Yeah.
And saying that, I got another rhetorical question to think about is, why does everything now have to be a mini game? It just
glad it's not QuickTime events.
Why does each of these scanners have an enter the scanner button and then a separate binding to exit the scanner? Why isn't it like the system?
Yeah, that's retarded.
Where it's a toggle single button? That drives me fucking crazy.
There's a photograph that's going around of a RAF officer, a female RAF officer in 1940, hunched over a cathode ray screen, twiddling knobs to try and pick up the waveform of approaching aircraft. That is what the FFS scanner feels like. It feels like something from the 1940s, and
Exactly.
where if you look at modern radar and the way that works, it's all point and click. It's all kind of graphically displayed, and everything is all filtered. And yes, I know game, but it just seems needlessly
Yeah.
complicated when it could be so much easier.
I
That's the
have an
control
answer to
method.
that. You want to know the answer?
What you got?
Immersion.
Yeah, but
There
it's
it
not,
is.
is it? It's not even immersion.
is.
It's like all those. I sort of
No,
expecting to
he's
see
looking for an excuse to say that.
USS.
Nope.
Yeah,
This
it's
is
just
the
like
perfect moment.
it's just like I look in the USS and expect to see Messerschmitt 109s in there. It's
Yeah.
It's true. True.
For me,
moving around the orbit line is one thing. Having the orbit line and the radio scanner as well, too much.
Yeah. For me, the last thing I just realized I wanted to throw out, if anybody at Frontier is listening, I'll say again, please leave the spawn rates for high grades exactly like they are. It's fantastic. Please, people will love it. People will engineer more. It's great. Please. All right,
is every
my begging's
instance
over.
guaranteed to have a high grade
No,
mission
not.
there?
I don't say that. I'd say that it's guaranteed, but
So
I
you
have
could
found
be-
an unbelievable
could be
number
wait-
of them.
So you could be jump in a system, look for one, not being there, hang around for 20 minutes for them all to go away, and then come back again and try again.
No, they actually okay. So yes and no. So what, from my experience, what happens is if they do kind of like I go and farm 3 or 4, and a couple that I didn't get to maybe expired. I go back to the scanner without leaving system, scan again, and more show up. Right. So they do kind of continually spawn like that as you scan. What I've experienced though is if you jump into a system, do your scan, and you don't get 1 or 2, just go to another system, because in my experience, I will find a system that has at least 2 or 3, if not 5 to 10. Right. And then that's the system I want to farm, because even if it's not necessarily the material I want, and yes, the trade rates suck, and that's a whole nother conversation because those need to change. Right. But given the spawn rate is so high, and I can get something grade 5 so fast, and generally in a normal build, you don't need a shit ton of grade 5 stuff. I think it's a massive buff to the amount of time that it would take to engineer a ship. Right. I mean, a massive one.
Yeah, one more question I thought I'd ask, and I'm taking over the show.
No,
which
you're
is
good. You're good.
What I tend
We're
to
almost
happen
done.
is,
You're great.
has anyone encountered any kind of resource extraction point in game yet?
Nope.
At the moment,
I think they're taken out.
Well, I don't know whether they're taken out or not, because if they have been, then I'm really glad I'm triple elite, because I think getting elite, we're having to pull individual ships out of Super Cruise would be for my family.
Well, no.
Combat
You still-
zones, Heelys were
Well,
Feelies.
nav beacons, conflict zones, compromised nav beacons, Thargoid scouts are actually the fastest way to do it. There's other ways. I agree with you. You know what?
Pirate
I'll admit-
activity.
Yeah, there's lots of them. I will admit I had not noticed that reses were taken out of beta. I had not even noticed that yet. I do that little bounty
We
hunting.
did
these days.
yesterday, the
I'd
famous.
actually prefer those areas
know.
for combat, though, to be honest. So it'd be a shame if they have gone.
I kind of agree with you, Ant. Like, I think that would be a shame if reses are now gone. Right. I think
I
that would be a
wonder
big
if the
mistake.
hotspots are going to work like reses.
I mean, I think I think that's great that they do, but I think reses should still exist. I don't know why the two would be mutually exclusive.
Well, this is what I don't know, and hopefully Frontier will clarify, because in the stream yesterday about mining, I didn't see any other ships mining in the zone, and I didn't see any of the pirate ships going to stop them. So it may be something there. It's to be added, and they just wanted to focus on the mining rather than having to be tested by
NPCs and that sort
yeah.
of thing. Yeah.
So it may be. So
And it may have been. Were
can I
they in a
point out-
habitated system?
You know what I bet it is? I bet it's they don't want the Mamba and the Phantom to spawn into those instances in their program too. Just like they did. Exactly. Just like that happened with the scenarios that were spawning. That could be why the reses aren't in there right now. Is for that exact reason. Just easier to turn them off than to not spawn.
Do you smell that?
I do. What does that smell like?
I smell a half-cooked beta
I smell some bullshit, maybe.
as well.
To be
as
fair,
well,
mining isn't in the beta yet, so they may appear alongside mining because it
Right,
may
we
be
need to
they've been
see-
reworked, and that's why they're
that
not
was
in
my
yet.
guess too. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know that's part of the tiered beta. So let's wait and see after that, and we'll know more at that point.
Yeah, all right. Well, if anybody doesn't have anything else, I guess we'll close out today, guys.
Yep, and just as we always say, I think most of us will probably be hanging around a little while after.
I will
disappear.
definitely.
Yep.
Just to say
Those-
thanks
So
to a
hang
couple of
around if you want
folks.
to stay around.
Same
Yeah,
here.
ditto. But those on Twitch, when you finish today, I would like to request, I wouldn't normally do this, I put a link into Twitch chat. If you can send people over there when you're done, if you don't have a planned raid today or anything like that, if you're on Twitch,
Yeah, we'll do.
I'd super appreciate it, because
Yep.
they're doing a charity event for a hospice in Birmingham over the course of the weekend. So as long as everyone doesn't mind, send your people that way. That's certainly what
Okay.
I'm going to be doing when I finish.
Sure. No
Thank
problem.
you.
Okay.
Right, well, have a lovely evening, everybody, and I shall see you all soon.
Yep.
Yeah,
and
thanks. And
Thanks to Shan
Yeah, go
for
ahead, Obsidian.
coming along. And, sorry, when I introduced you, Shan, I didn't introduce you as one of the hosts from Live Radio, just in case there's a few people that might not be
that's
aware of
I
that.
did mention it.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
did
you did.
mention it, but that's fine.
yeah.
Okay.
Again, thanks everybody. It's been a blast. We'll look forward to seeing everybody next week. Next week is the new ships, correct? After we'll talk about the mining and squadrons, and then the coming after that, is ships. Correct?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
got the ships. Yeah.
Yeah.
We ain't gonna be able to play them or play with them, but we'll see them again and things. Well,
Yeah.
anyways, thanks for watching and have a great Friday, everyone.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Amazing, everyone.
Cheers.
See you soon.
Thanks, Ian.
Bye, folks.
Bye, guys.
So, we're still around in case before anyone disappears. Unfortunately, you're just down to me now. So, excuse me, got a bit of a foggy throat there. Glad you enjoyed the stream there, Brown Coat. So what I normally do at this point is, obviously during the roundtable, during the discussion with the other streamers there, we don't get to interact directly with chat too much. And that's because there's, in this case, there was 4 people streaming. We've all got our own chat, so we don't overtalk each other just to address chat. I do try and bring some of the pertinent questions up and address them to everyone else. But it's not always possible to do that. So what I like to do is, at the end of the stream here, I hang around with chat, and we can go over some of the topics that you've raised, some of the issues you've raised, and I can talk a bit more directly with you all. So I'm going to scroll back up through chat, and we'll have a bit of a look. Ant, will a full moon illuminate the dark side of a planet? You actually asked that a bit early on, Old Duck. I did notice that. Sorry I didn't address it in question. Should we go find out while I'm talking with chat? We're going to have to, now I've mapped this system, this is going to be a good place to do it. So I'll have a look. Let's see. Let's get back to the remap. I'm a bit slow with the controls here because these aren't my normal key bindings. I'm using a Xbox gamepad here, so a little bit different. So, Mike, there should be a database of what's been discovered. That should be in the codex. So we're going to look for here very quickly, and then we get to chat, just so I can find a place to go towards. We want somewhere near a star. There's a star there, star A. We need a planet that's got a moon around it, and that one don't look like it has. Actually, we're about to see this far clearer on the normal system map rather than the Orrery map, won't we? Open system map. So I've got to sort this out, and then I'll be directly with chat. So, alright, so that's not really the right sort of planet we want to look at. This one quite possibly may be a little bit too far away from the local star. It may look dark anyway, but what we want to see is if the dark side of that is illuminated by the reflections from the moon. Assuming that they're in the correct orbital positions, they may not be. we've got some good flying to do there. So yeah. Yeah, Carborundum. Sorry about that. Yeah, I perfectly intended on using everything with HOTUS. It's just that I haven't got my keybinds set up yet, and I messed them up the other day, and I haven't rebound them since. I've actually been quite enjoying playing it with the gamepad. Have we seen all the ships in Chapter 4? I don't know anything about ships in Chapter 4 EOS. I just know the ships that we've seen, the NPC ships that we've been seen flying around. So I couldn't possibly answer that one. So the keybind in view magic is the default gamepad ones. If you hold any of the buttons down, they're context sensitive. So if I hold down B, we get up the other options for B and any other option combined there. That's for blue and so on. So these are just the default control or gamepad settings. HGs are not more common. Sake, they should be exactly the same. The galaxy itself hasn't changed. It's just the method that we use to discover the galaxy that's changed. Just dealing with the message here. 1 second. Yeah, GS1. I think from what I've seen, some people have actually got it bound to a joystick and mouse and keyboard. They're quite happy with it once they've found suitable bindings. But it definitely does seem that the whole system was designed with a gamepad in mind. I definitely agree with that. So I'm scrolling up chat here a bit, so I apologise if I miss some of your more recent comments. So Alden Appleby says that he hopes Dr. Kai releases the route soon for Distant Worlds 2. I definitely want to see that. Distant Worlds 2, of course, is the massive exploration expedition that should be scheduled pretty soon now. The idea was to release it along with Chapter 4, so I imagine we'll see that sometime towards the end of December, maybe January. That's the Distant Worlds Expedition Squadron, not the release of Chapter 4. Yeah, JS, I think I'll also carry on flying primarily alone. It just tends to be very much a lone wolf player. I like jumping from one activity to the other. But who knows, maybe I'll do something with a squadron at some point. I don't know yet. Yep, Akira, I think you're spot on. Although I kind of disagree with the way you say it. You say there's no such thing as old exploration. Old exploration was certainly very much a thing for a lot of people because the instant system map gave you a very quick overview of places that you could go and visit for certain interesting locations. Locations such as conjunctions of moons and planets and stuff like that is a lot harder to find now, but that's pretty much the only limitation. But I agree entirely with you that there was no gameplay there. Tuko So, I think you guys are just too old to learn keybinds anymore. It could be that, yeah. 911 FSS scanner. The FSS scanner right now is not immersion, it's the opposite. I don't think it's about immersion, I think it's about gameplay. Franco, we discussed the squadron members or the squadrons in the chat there, but yeah, I think I'll bring it up with the other roundtable guys. Obviously it's not all on my say so, we generally come to an agreement with each other on these things, but I for one would certainly like to see other squadron leaders in the live stream next week. I know they're all of very different opinions, not everyone has got the same opinion as DJ and Shan. I think I don't want to put words in their mouth, so I apologise to them in advance if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that the Hutton Truckers, for example, are very happy with what's coming across with squadrons, and I think there might have been a few others as well. But again, I might be putting words in their mouth, but I'll definitely have a few. I'll see about anyway. I'll see what the other guys have to say about it. I'd like to get some of the other player group leaders on for the future live streams. Yeah, but I mean, a few people there bring up the issue, as Shan mentioned, and about the tuning of the scanner, the new scanners. Seems some people are not keen on it, but personally, I really do like it. I think it's a very positive change for the game. But you know, we've got our own opinions. It's not a case of being right or wrong. It's just a case of either liking something or not liking something. And personally, I really do like every part of the exploration updates. Much needed change. Very, very good. Yeah, I'm kind of wondering about that, Tuco. So I'm wondering if resource extraction sites are going to be replaced with hotspots. I guess it would make sense. It doesn't really make sense to have hotspots as well as resource extraction sites, because why would anyone be mining in a resource extraction site if there's also a hotspot? And likewise, if there's a resource extraction site there, why would you need to look for a hotspot to start with, unless you're going into areas that aren't actually being mined? It's strange Frontier haven't commented on that yet. Thank you, Edinburgh. I'm glad you liking the stream. Right, so Franco, which squadron does Shan lead? Shan doesn't lead a squadron in Elite Dangerous. We put him on because he's got a lot of experience with guilds in other games, and we wanted a bit of a contrast between what Elite Dangerous has brought in, what Frontier have brought into Elite Dangerous, to compare with what other games do. I think, well, I just thought that would be a little bit interesting in terms of discussion, and just to bring a bit of contrast there. But likewise, next week we'll have the Squadrons update available for us all to try out, so we'd certainly like to have some other squadron leaders in, people from Elite Dangerous. Hi Chris, I'm glad you liked Shan. He's actually really interesting. He often has a lot of very good things to say. And just in case you're wondering, he might have been beating up squadrons a bit there, but he's not usually one to beat up Elite Dangerous. He says what's on his mind, whether that's positive or negative. He always speaks his mind, and that's one of the things I really like about Shan. If you want to hear more of Shan, do listen to Live Radio. Here's one of the hosts there. I'm overshooting the target here. Here's one of the hosts on Live Radio, which is a weekly podcast. So if you want to hear more from Shan, then do listen to that. I think they're on Tuesdays. I'll put a link in the video description. Actually, there is already a link in the video description if you want to see a bit more about Live Radio, if you've never actually listened to that or heard that. And I've just got a super chat from someone. Agent Exigeous, thank you very much for that. Really appreciate that. Desiat is still bugged, and now I'm locked out of beta. Oh god. So that's the $5 you was going to give to Frontier, now you're giving it to me instead. Well, thank you, Agent. I really appreciate the $5. It's unfortunate you're locked out of beta though. It might be worth sending a message to support. Hopefully they can help you. But the weekend coming up, I really hope they're working over the weekend. Be a bit of a nuisance if they're not. Yeah, one of the Phoenix Firebirds says he's a bit concerned about the amount of aggro that players may get from pirates when mining. So, I assume you mean NPC pirates. The thing I've always found very, very odd about Elite Dangerous is if you're flying around randomly in space within the bubble and you drop into a ring system, and you've got to think that the amount of surface area in those ring systems is many, many times faster than the surface area of Earth. You can just drop into one of those ring systems, and what you'll find is that very quickly an NPC will spawn right near you. Now, there's always the argument that they're probably dropping into your through your wake, but I've just always found it a little bit odd that no matter where you drop into a ring system, there's always an NPC who pops in very quickly afterwards. I really hope that's not something that carries on with the new mining system, because that would get old very, very quickly when you want to mine these new asteroids and you have to actually deal with a pirate first. It'd be a bit of a pain. Yeah, Mike, so there is a database of things that have been found so far. We touched on that just a moment ago. You can actually see that on the new codex, and I'll jump to that very quickly now so you can have a look if you haven't had the opportunity to look. That's actually here in Discoveries, and I'm here in the Sanctum Centaurius arm. So we can see what discoveries have been made here. Now the ones that are in blue are discoveries that I've made myself, I think. Oh no, they're not. That means it's one of the categories I've made a discovery in. Or perhaps not. Perhaps it's not updated. At least that was my understanding. But anyway, you can see what's been discovered here. You've got a little image of the type of thing that's been found. And normally you can click on the little icon here and it'll take you to that location on the system map. And this is all updated, not quite in real time, but it's updated very, very quickly after people have made these discoveries. So basically you can go anywhere you want and start finding things of interest. And if we have a look here in Temple, we can see that there's some anomalies, these clouds which have been found, and these are local anomalies. These are not nebula, these are new types of clouds that you can actually go and fly inside of. Yep, Tuco, so very, very much agree with that. The game needed to become connected. It's the thing that was missing from the game. And yeah, I also remember talking about that at the expo as well. The biggest thing that's needed for the game in my mind. So glad to see it there. No stream on Twitch this week, Bonsai Panda. Unfortunately, I stream normally on Twitch on Wednesdays. Maybe I'll start streaming on the Fridays, but well, I don't know. I'm gonna think about that. Right, so Old Duck wanted to know if one of these moons is actually reflected down on the planets. I don't think the moons are going to be close enough to allow us to see that. You can see the light is actually very bright here because we're still, relatively speaking, quite close to the star. I've got to say, I really do like the new graphics here and the new lighting. Put a video out on it, was it yesterday? Or maybe the day before with the new graphics? Just much improved. No, there's no moon, unfortunately. It's going to take a bit of a while to find one of those locations. I guess a good... I can't think of the top of it. I was going to say Mitterrand Hollow might have been a good location to test it out. But off the top of my head, I can't actually think of a good location. You know what I will do is jump into the ring system here. It's Fire Pro, but it just for fun. And I'll be back with chat in just a minute there. You can play this with an Xbox 360 controller. I'm actually playing it with a Xbox One controller at the moment, but I did used to play it with a... Oh wow, got a little bit too fast there. I used to play it with an Xbox 360 controller. It still works. And that would reveal to us any hotspots here. And you can see there's a hotspot over there showing up in orange. But I'm going to drop into this ring system just to... Well, we're going to hit it a bit too fast. There we go. Right, Florian, I see a lot of people actually saying that it's odd that the background, that the light... I was just thinking that looks like one of my probes going off in the distance there. That the new lighting actually colours the background and the Milky Way. Well, the thing is, I think that is true to life, if I'm understanding things correctly. Although it's not the same scale, we see that down on Earth a lot. When you go outside and it's sunset, everything's lit up in a completely different colour to what it is when it's regular daylight. So it's certainly not a problem as I see it. I totally would expect the background to look different due to different lighting colours. At Guillemaro, my Xbox controllers are the default ones. If you go, these aren't the ones I normally play with, but we can see there I'm just using classic context. Switch to that and I haven't changed any binding at all. We do have an atmosphere on Earth, but light travels, regardless of whether you're on Earth or whether you're in space. Light wavelength travel. And depending on the light you're near, you're essentially sitting in a bubble of light. Your eyes are going to pick that up. And of course, within light, space is a void, but there is dust in space. And the galactic core is full of dust, so the light you're looking through will be filtered against the dust in the background. So that dust won't necessarily be reflecting that light, but it's going to be filtered through that light. So that dust is going to look different depending on what type of light waves are between you and that dust. There's a lot of dust in Elite Dangerous in the background, Valorian, let's put it that way. I don't know the science of it, but I've always assumed that to be the reasons. Yeah, EOS, totally agree. The reason Frontier skip the travel is because the travel takes too damn long. I wish they would sort Super Cruise out. It's just one of the things I wanted everyone to see anyway. The new lighting in the ring systems here. Nope, upside, I haven't had a chance to find out one of those new areas, unfortunately. The new clouds, I really want to. So we can see how the asteroids cast shadows into the fog. You can just about see that there, I think. Right, then no bubbles of light. No, there's no bubbles of light in the sense that it's like a bubble of chemicals that you blow out through a bubble blower. No. But the light coming off of the sun, any star, is coming off of that star in a sphere, yeah? And that light will only carry on for a certain amount of distance until it weakens, yeah? And that sphere of light is what I would describe as a bubble. Not bubble that has got a clear definitive end and start, but something that I'd describe as, okay, so bubble's perhaps the wrong word. Let's say a sphere of light, yeah? Yeah, the graphics in the ring systems here are definitely really good. Right, I think this is probably not a bad area to leave it at, actually. I don't know, Florin. I don't know whether it would colour the background or not. My opinion is that it would colour the background because those coloured light rays are between you and the object that you're looking at. Yeah? But who knows? I'm not a scientist. I do understand what you mean, though. The thing is, if you travel far enough away from the star, then that the background is no longer coloured by that star. You're flying out of that that area. Haven't noticed any difference in FPS when over ATO. Yeah, loving these areas anyway. Going to be... We've seen them crack open a... on the live stream, I don't know how many of you saw it yesterday, but we see them cracking open a rocky asteroid. What I want to see is them cracking open an ice asteroid. And there again you can see the... Yeah, where's Scott Manley when we need him, eh, Spanky? There we can see some of the... shadows there being cast across the fog. Just looking at that one there as the asteroid rotates. I'm not sure how well that's coming across on stream, but you can see the asteroids changing there, the shadows changing there. I'm going to hit that, aren't I? Yeah, that's one thing I really like as well, Tuco. So the fact it feels like you've actually moving around, and that's one of the reasons I like the new exploration system. It actually feels like it's worth staying in a whole system for a while now, rather than just jumping in and jumping out. Even a system that looks initially boring could be somewhere that's worth staying, because well, you never know what you're going to find. Right, anyway, I think that is as good a place as anywhere to leave this stream. My camera's a little bit jumpy there. I just want to thank everyone for coming along and watching the stream. You still have EDFX running? No, Frank, I'm not using EDFX. These are all the new visuals from the beta and elite. I don't suppose I'll be using EDFX anymore. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, thanks everyone for streaming. I just want to give a shout out to Ryan for the super chat. Thank you to Andreas Bloom early on. Thank you very much for that. And thank you to Agent Exigeous. Sorry if I don't give a direct shout out while the live streams are ongoing. Oh, and thank you very much to Trey there. Really appreciate that. Nice little extra there just at the end of the stream. Yeah, it's been a very busy week, Tuco, so trying to get the third stream. I've also, actually, while everyone's here, one last thing I do want to say is there will be one more live stream for me tomorrow. I'll be streaming at 4:30, and I'm going to schedule that in just a bit. I'll be streaming a little bit about the codex. So there we go. Oh, thank you very much, Citizen Gold. Just as I'm about to wrap up, we're getting a few little donations coming in here. Thank you very much for that. It's really nice of you. I appreciate it. So yeah, just about to add, there will be another live stream. Oh, another one. What's going on here? Thank you. Oh wow. Yeah, oh, I'm going to crash now. I'm not looking what I'm doing. There, we just missed that. Keep me here with donations. Right, yes, so where was I? There's a live stream tomorrow. I'm going to set that up as the schedule as soon as we've finished here. 4:30 tomorrow, UTC. I'm not sure what that translates to the other country times, but I'll be streaming about the codex, so we'll have a bit of a look there. Probably won't be a massive stream, about an hour and a half or so, but yes, thank you very much to everyone. Been a real pleasure. I'll catch you all soon. Bye now. Oh, thank you, Agent. Cheers. Bye now. Thank you very much. You're all the best. Thank you.